Meet Midori, a temp worker who spent 3 grueling years trying to become the kind of grown-up adult she always admired. She pours every ounce of her energy into her job, happily playing the support role and helping everyone around her. But in the corporate world, kindness is a liability. Her boss delivers a cold blow. She's being fired because her productivity doesn't justify the overtime she spends helping others. Midori is left speechless, eventually riding the last train home in a state of total defeat. To numb the pain of unemployment, she turns to her favorite mobile game, Fairy Tale of Jewels, for a little gotcha therapy. But a quick glance at social media only makes things worse, showing a former colleague celebrating a promotion while Midori hits rock bottom. With tears streaming down her face, Midori wonders if there's any place in the world that actually needs her. Suddenly, her phone erupts with a blinding light, and a commanding voice echoes through the car, summoning someone who is willing to serve. In a flash, the train is gone. Midori finds herself sprawled in the center of a massive magic circle, surrounded by a crowd of bewildered nobles in a world she doesn't recognize. Then, the atmosphere shifts. A pair of sharp heels clicks against the stone as a woman of overwhelming presence and beauty steps forward, making everything else fade into the background. Midori's heart stops as she recognizes her. Lapis Tenebrae. She's been summoned inside the game, and the woman standing before her is none other than the story's most dangerous figure, who now demands she accept a family contract. Lapis extends her hand. Midori is haunted by the memory of her own terminated contract back home. Driven by a desperate need to be useful, she reaches out to take the hand, just as a voice screams for her to stop. Midori quickly pieces together the nightmare she's entered. This is the world of Juelia, where the hard-working hero Diana is beloved by all, and Lapis Tenebrae is the sinister final boss destined to commit atrocities and meet a tragic end. While the surrounding mages dismiss her as a useless, magicless human, Midori is spiraling into a panic. She's just a normal office worker. Why on earth would the game's most terrifying villain summon her? Diana begins her summoning ritual with a line that Midori finds absolutely adorable. But this cute girl is a powerhouse. Midori recalls how Diana once summoned 3 legendary dragons and nearly incinerated the entire school. Suddenly, the ritual spirals out of control. In a flash of urgency, Lapis is called upon to contain the chaos, unleashing her powerful Twilight Curtain barrier to stop a disaster in its tracks. The clash is explosive. Lapis's magic slams into the overwhelming power of the summoned beasts, creating a blinding wall of energy that barely holds the line. Crisis averted. Midori breathes a sigh of relief, knowing she's kept the plot on track, but Lapis isn't letting it go. She demands to know why Midori gave the directions to act exactly when she did. Lapis closes in, her gaze piercing. She knows a normal person couldn't have predicted that magical anomaly, so she demands the truth. Just who is this mysterious girl? Midori panics, unable to admit she's just a hardcore fan of the game. In a moment of pure desperation, Midori blurts out the biggest lie of her life. She has the power of foresight. Lapis freezes, the word echoing in her mind as she begins to connect the dots. The suspicion vanishes, replaced by a triumphant smile. Lapis is convinced that Midori is the very person she was meant to find, and now, she wants to make it official. Serve me. With those words, Lapis offers Midori a place by her side. For a woman who felt disposable in her old life, the feeling of being truly needed is overwhelming. Midori finally introduces herself, ready to commit. A flash of light seals the bond. Midori pledges her loyalty with a determined, "I will be in your care," officially entering the service of the kingdom's most dangerous woman. The contract is sealed. Surrounded by a whirlwind of roses, Midori's new life begins. Not as a disposable employee, but as the devoted secretary to a villainess. 8 refreshing hours of sleep. But as Midori wakes up, the blissful feeling vanishes, replaced by the crushing realization that accepting that contract was a terrible idea. She staggers to the window, only to be greeted by a breathtaking view of a sprawling city and a magnificent castle. A view is too perfect to be a dream. This is reality. Panic sets in as Midori realizes that if her new employer is the game's final boss, her own life is in serious danger. Just as she's spiraling, a sudden knock at the door jolts her out of her thoughts. Midori finds herself dressed in a maid uniform, feeling completely out of place for her age. But then Lapis appears, and her sheer radiance leaves Midori breathless. It hits her then, even in the game, Lapis was never just a simple villainess. Memories of the game flood back, showing a side of Lapis that was surprisingly kind, treating others like sisters. But the story took a dark turn. The sister Lapis cherished died long ago, leaving a void that changed everything. The kindness twisted into cruelty as Lapis sought to purge those she deemed trash using a powerful magic jewel. It was a path that led to the ultimate tragedy, Lapis being executed by her own fiancé, the prince. "Are you listening?" Lapis's voice suddenly snaps Midori back to the present. Lapis explains the laws of this world. Magic requires a specific stone to function. Since Midori possesses no magic, she's assigned the role of a normal maid, with duties ranging from cleaning quarters to serving the craftsmen in the workshop. As they tour the facilities, Lapis reveals the history of stone-based magic and the struggle against poor-quality imitations. Midori listens in awe as she learns that the great Tenebrae family was the one to establish and control the jewelry guild. Lapis takes immense pride in the workshop, calling it the forefront of the country's technology. Midori can't help but be impressed by her employer's passion, though Lapis quickly tells her to stop daydreaming and keep moving. Watching Lapis, Midori realizes that the scary noble is actually someone who deeply admires and wants to protect her heritage. This glimpse of nobility stirs something in Midori, a sudden, fierce desire to find a way to be useful to this woman. Then comes the grand reveal of the office. Midori's jaw drops as she stares at a chaotic mountain of books and papers that looks more like a landfill than a workspace. Lapis calmly tells her that if she needs a document, she'll find it somewhere in that mess. Lapis leaves for school with a strict warning. Don't touch her drawers and absolutely do not change how her things are sorted. But as the door slams shut, Midori's eyes gleam with a dangerous professional instinct. As long as she doesn't change the sorting, everything should be fine, right? While the other maids gossip about Lapis's terrifying temper, Midori discovers something shocking hidden in the clutter. Business reports and endless study notes? She realizes the Villainess has been secretly working herself to the bone. The moment Lapis steps back into her room, she's greeted by a beaming Midori. But the real shock is the room itself. The chaotic mess has been transformed into a masterpiece of organization. Lapis instantly snaps, demanding to know if her orders were disobeyed. Panicking, Midori quickly explains that she didn't change the sorting, she just filed everything logically on the shelves and desk, begging her to just take a look. Lapis is clearly impressed, though she hides it behind a new assignment to organize the storehouse. Midori happily accepts, her heart aching as she realizes Lapis is just a girl doing her absolute utmost for her family and her future. In a wave of emotion, Midori stops seeing a game's final boss and sees a lonely girl instead. With a hand over her heart, she makes a solemn vow. She will be the one to give Lapis the support she truly needs. Romantic tension vanishes the second Lapis coldly orders some tea. Once alone, Midori completely collapses in a heap of regret, screaming internally about why she tried so hard and fearing she's about to be fired again. When Lapis presents a formal document, Midori's heart sinks. She's convinced it's a dismissal notice. But then comes the twist of a lifetime. Because of her business skills, Lapis is appointing her as her personal secretary. Sipping her tea with a calm expression, Lapis admits that Midori's reports were incredibly easy to understand. The sudden praise hits Midori like a lightning bolt, leaving her completely flustered and speechless. As she signs the contract, Midori realizes this world is nothing like the ideal she had as a child. But it doesn't matter. This woman gave her a place to belong, and with a determined smile, Midori commits herself fully to her new boss. With a burning resolve, Midori vows to rewrite the tragic destiny of her employer and save her from the game's cruel plot. Surprisingly, Lapis seems to be on the same page. But let's rewind. Just as Midori was reeling from the shock of her employment contract being terminated, she was suddenly ripped from her train ride home and summoned into the world of a game. A bright good morning meets a chilling gaze. Midori realizes that starting today, her new job is the most dangerous one imaginable, serving as the Villainess's personal secretary. The stakes are terrifyingly high. Lapis is fated to die by her second year of school. Midori decides that protecting her employer is the only way to secure stable employment, even if she risks being killed in the process. Her first task? Retrieving a small bottle from a basket. Wait, is that an AP recovery item? Midori recognizes it as the fantasy equivalent of a caffeine shot and panics, knowing that drinking one on an empty stomach is a recipe for disaster. She desperately tries to push a sandwich on Lapis, but the Villainess coldly refuses. Lapis claims eating will only make her sleepier, but Midori notices something. That terrifying look isn't a death glare. It's just pure exhaustion. Determined to be a good secretary, Midori starts planning a healthier smoothie for tomorrow. Persistence pays off when Lapis finally gives in and takes a bite of the sandwich. As Midori hands over the recovery potion, a sudden, unexpected heartbeat thumps in her chest, a dangerous spark of affection. The mood shifts when Lapis asks a pointed question. Is Midori a noble? After a panicked denial, Lapis observes that Midori's concern for breakfast is a trait of nobility, concluding that commoners from Midori's world are fundamentally different from those here. The truth is chilling. Lapis describes the commoners of this world as barbaric, selfish, and barely literate, stray dogs that no noble would ever choose to associate with. Midori shudders, realizing she must prevent Lapis from forming the same bond with Diana-chan as she did in the original game. Lapis reveals her true, predatory nature, viewing commoners as mere pawns to be manipulated with a sliver of kindness and broken into obedient guard dogs. Midori watches in awe and terror, finally realizing exactly who Lapis-sama really is. The first impression that fooled the entire player base, but Midori knows the truth. Lapis is way too much of a villain. While Lapis plays the part of a friendly noble, she warns Midori to stay away from commoners. Midori's mission is clear: keep Lapis away from Diana-chan to save them both from a tragic end. But the plan hits a snag immediately. Lapis introduces Midori to Diana, and the two hit it off instantly. Midori's brain practically shuts down in a panic. They're already getting close. In her nervousness, she slips up on Diana's name, leaving the girl completely baffled. Lapis doubles down on the deception, hugging Diana and claiming Midori's prophetic powers foresaw their friendship. While Midori feels honored by the gesture, Lapis's real thoughts are chilling. She sees Diana as nothing more than a pawn. The mood flips instantly when Lapis orders Midori to wait in the summoned familiar area. As Lapis walks away to arrange a proper waiting room, Midori is left alone, feeling the cold reality of being just another pawn in the Villainess's game. Despite the coldness, Midori's hard-working office lady instincts kick in. She showers Lapis with creation gummies and brilliance cookies to boost her stats, worrying about her brain power. Lapis sighs about the calories, but she can't seem to resist the treats. A small smile plays on Lapis's lips as she enjoys the snack, calling Midori a busybody with a hint of affection. Then comes the announcement. They'll be working together during the 5th period familiar exam. Midori is left completely stunned. Suddenly, the air feels heavy. Midori's heart starts thumping uncontrollably, and a deep blush creeps across her face. She tries to deny it, but the feeling is undeniable. Could she actually be falling for the Villainess? Shaking off the tension, Midori resolves to give it her all, even as a pawn. She recalls the game's tutorial. The familiar exam is a 5-turn battle of HP. Most students have small pets, but she knows Diana's dragons are on a whole different level. The moment of truth arrives. The announcer screams the matchup that everyone has been waiting for. Diana versus Tenebrae. The two rivals face off, with Midori watching nervously from the sidelines. Lapis summons her familiar, the terrifying demon dragon, and Midori is reminded of its overwhelming power from the game. But then, Lapis does something unexpected. She orders Midori to stay put and casts a defensive barrier at her feet, protecting her from the coming chaos. Enough is enough. Lapis steps forward, unleashing a massive magic circle as she declares she'll settle this fight on her own. The impact is absolute. A blinding explosion of power rips through the battlefield, leaving nothing but the sound of bubbling water in its wake. Surrounded by intricate arrays of light, Lapis dominates the space, her focus unwavering as the chaos swirls around her. Midori can only watch in total shock. This isn't how the exam was supposed to go. No taking turns, no rules, just pure unfiltered power. Lapis is overwhelmingly strong, but as Midori watches her, a wave of insecurity hits. Compared to this goddess of destruction, she feels like she'd only be a burden. Suddenly, the battle shifts. In a blur of motion, Lapis reaches out and snatches Midori right out of the danger zone. The world freezes for a second. Midori finds herself pulled flush against Lapis, both of them completely caught off guard by the sudden closeness. No time for blushing. Lapis barks an order, demanding Midori fire her strongest water spell immediately. Together, they unleash Verkink, a crushing torrent that slams into the monster. Game set. Midori collapses in relief, realizing her obsession with making NPC attack spreadsheets actually paid off. But Lapis isn't in the mood for jokes, coldly noting that Midori clearly wasn't listening to her. Then the cold mask slips. Lapis grabs her with a fierce, trembling intensity, her voice cracking with a desperation Midori has never heard before. You could have died. The air is thick with tension as Lapis holds Midori close, her voice a mix of frustration and desperation. She can't believe Midori would throw her frail body into the line of fire. And then comes the line that changes everything. You belong to me. Lapis makes it clear. Sacrificing herself without permission is strictly forbidden. Midori is frozen, her mind racing. She had always seen Lapis as the cold-hearted villainess, who viewed commoners as nothing more than disposable tools, believing she was just another pawn in a dangerous game. But the truth is hitting her hard. Lapis isn't just protecting her family or her house. She's protecting Midori too. In this moment, Midori realizes that behind that wall of strength is a woman who is more frightened and lonely than anyone else. Unable to hold back any longer, Midori throws her arms around Lapis, pulling her into a tight, desperate embrace. Lapis looks completely caught off guard, her expression softening as Midori whispers a gentle reassurance. It's okay, she tells her. It doesn't hurt anymore. Roles flip as Lapis returns the hug, admitting that Midori actually protected her. As they hold each other, Midori's heart begins to thump wildly. The tension between them is reaching a breaking point. And then, the mood flips instantly. Lapis is suddenly squishing Midori's cheeks with a stern look, reminding her that she's the one who does the protecting. Midori can barely speak through the pinch, but she can't help but think that this angry side of Lapis is actually kind of cute. Once the chaos settles, the guilt kicks in. Midori looks back at the danger they faced, feeling like a total failure of a secretary because Lapis could have actually died. Fast forward 1 week, and Midori has completely transformed the atmosphere of the estate. She's become a hit with the maids, using her modern knowledge to teach them how to make amazing hand cream for the winter cold. Midori greets Lady Lapis. The villainess is curious about the medicine in her hand. But the moment turns intimate when Lapis gently slides her hand to Midori's cheek, her voice dropping to a soft, concerned whisper. "Your wound, does it still hurt?" Midori tries to play it cool, explaining that she only made the hand cream because the maids complained about their rough skin. But as Lapis looks on, Midori can't help but feel that these small, mundane tasks are the only way she can actually be useful. Lapis is impressed, calling Midori's precognition a wonderful talent. But while Lapis is pleased, Midori is spiraling. If the story follows the original plot, Diana's chances of survival are plummeting. The original game's dark truth flashes back. Lapis was meant to manipulate Diana, build her trust, and then betray her to steal a powerful magic jewel. And looking at Lapis now, Midori realizes the villainess is already eyeing that brooch with predatory intent. One sudden, intimate lean-in from Lapis is all it takes to send Diana sprinting away in a panic. Midori is completely baffled. According to the plot, these two should be getting closer, not treating each other like magnets with the same pull. In the middle of a lecture on the dangers of destroying magic jewels, the teacher puts Diana on the spot. The pressure is on, and Diana is clearly struggling to find the answer. While Diana's struggle, Lapis steps in with a surprisingly helpful offer to tutor her. But instead of gratitude, Diana snaps, shouting that she doesn't need help before storming out of the room. Midori is stunned by the friction, recalling that Lapis was supposed to be Diana's essential support unit. Then comes the order from Lapis with a dangerous glint in her eye. Tame that wild dog and lend her some support. Midori is almost relieved that the original betrayal plot is falling apart, but her peace is shattered in an instant. She spots Diana in a desperate state, raising a sword to smash her own magic jewel. "Wait!" Midori lunges forward, grabbing Diana's arm just in time to prevent a catastrophic curse. The adrenaline vanishes as Diana completely collapses, dissolving into a heartbroken sob. An oppressive silence falls between them, and Midori can feel a massive emotional wall standing in the way. Trying to bridge the gap, she softly apologizes for the pain she caused while stopping the attack. Diana opens up about her past, recalling how a mysterious rescue by magic sparked a lifelong dream to protect others. Finding a magical brooch in her attic changed everything, granting her the power to join the prestigious royal escort troops. But that dream quickly turned into a nightmare. In a moment of misplaced confidence in her new strength, Diana accidentally injured an innocent person, leaving her haunted by the realization that she could have killed someone. The power she once craved now feels like a curse. Terrified of her own capacity for destruction, Diana spirals into despair, wondering if she'll ever be able to trust anyone, or even herself, again. Midori remembers the game's plot. A single line from Lapis, "Your power is wonderful," was the key to bonding with Diana, the ultimate hero. But looking at the broken girl beside her, Midori realizes the stakes are much higher than a game script. Diana isn't a legendary hero right now. She's just a terrified 15-year-old. Midori weighs the risks, knowing that if Diana loses her magic, she loses her place at the academy, but she might also escape a darker destiny. A daring plan forms in Midori's mind. If Diana destroys her brooch and never meets the prince, Lapis's cruel purge of the commoners might never happen. And Lapis herself might be saved from her tragic end. Midori imagines a world where Diana finds a different path, one where she isn't defined by a cursed power, but by her own choices. It's a gamble, but it's the only way to protect the place they now call home. Enough with the what-ifs. Midori snaps back to the present and cuts through the heavy silence with a sudden, bold declaration. She's going to foretell Diana's future right here and now. With absolute conviction, Midori transforms Diana's fear into hope, proclaiming that her power will become a sword that cuts through nothing but evil to protect those she loves. Diana is completely floored, tears of relief streaming down her face. Midori delivers the final blow of kindness, echoing the game's pivotal line, to give Diana the validation she desperately needs. This strength isn't a curse, it's a wonderful power. Midori is in full prophet mode, boasting that her predictions are absolute. Her confidence is overwhelming, leaving Diana completely flustered and blushing. But behind the smile, Midori is spiraling. She knows Diana is the world's protagonist, meaning anyone she opposes is automatically cast as evil, and Midori feels like a fraud for manipulating the future just to protect her own skin. The atmosphere turns sugary sweet as Midori and Diana share a close embrace, But Lapis is watching from the sidelines. Diana tries to pivot, nervously asking Lapis for help with her lessons, while Lapis simply stares her down. Lapis gives a graceful of course, but Midori is far from relaxed. She's terrified that the original plot is a conveyor belt leading straight to death, until Lapis suddenly grabs her, snapping her back to reality with a sharp tug. Midori is a blushing mess, barely able to function as Diana invites her to lunch. Meanwhile, Lapis watches them with a cold, calculating gaze, wondering if the predetermined plot can actually be broken. A glimpse into the past reveals a rare, softer side of the Villainess. A girl named Aurora offers Lapis a single flower, a moment of genuine connection that Lapis treasures as the only one picked specifically for her. Now the scene shifts to the vibrant royal capital's harvest festival. Midori is absolutely beaming, completely captivated by the festive energy and the crowds. For Midori, this isn't just a party, it's the end of the game's prologue. She realizes this is her golden opportunity to rewrite the story and change the fate of the characters before the real tragedy begins. Lapis delivers a flawless speech about the bonds between nobility and commoners, but her inner thoughts are chilling. While Midori is impressed, Lapis secretly views the people around her as nothing more than convenient pawns for her training. Midori's excitement peaks when she spots a weapon shop, insisting on buying something for Natalie's self-defense. Lapis simply tells them to enjoy their day as workers, leaving Natalie completely love-struck by the gesture. While other girls are cheering and heading off, Midori returns to Lapis's side with a professional air. She leans into the carriage, asking the one question that signals she's back on the clock. Does Lapis have a harvest of information for her too? The report is grim. The anti-noble faction has already infiltrated the Academy's student base and the royal palace's security. Midori notes that while they lack structure, they're a persistent plague of bandits. Lapis listens intently, before deciding it's time to host a festival of her own. But this isn't a celebration, it's a war. Lapis's plan is chillingly ruthless. Scatter the limbs of captured enemies across the city to create a common foe, forcing every stupid dog to crawl out of the gutters. Midori can only watch in absolute horror. Lapis beams, asking if it isn't a wonderful idea, while Midori's soul practically leaves her body. Desperate to distance herself from the carnage, she reminds herself that she's only in this madness because Lapis pays her. Then, a sudden shove sends her stumbling, leaving her flustered and apologetic. Suddenly, Midori remembers something, and her mood flips instantly. With a bright smile, she presents a piece of fruit, insisting it's delicious, and that Lapis simply must try some. Lapis looks on with a deadpan expression, wondering why her secretary is so obsessed with food. Midori goes into full enthusiast mode, explaining that this is the fruit of knowledge, whose sap is used to make paper. As she geeks out over the local materials and a knife picked out by Diana-chan, Lapis watches her with a small, mysterious heh. Realizing she's rambling, Midori quickly apologizes, assuming a woman of Lapis's status already knew everything about the fruit. But Lapis's response is unexpectedly soft. She treasures it because it's the only fruit in the entire country that Midori picked specifically for her. Ah, thump! That one line hits Midori like a physical blow, leaving her blushing and breathless. She's completely overwhelmed, convinced that Lapis is the most ideal, sophisticated employer she could ever serve. Lapis can't help but tease her, questioning if Midori is just too childish for her age. Midori frantically protests that she's only 25, but Lapis's gaze turns distant. She whispers a cryptic observation, that Midori really does resemble her. A memory of the Tenebrae family unfolds, revealing a girl from the past who was just like Midori. She possessed the power of foresight, though it only reached a few minutes into the future, and she spent her life using that gift solely for the sake of others. Lapis drops a bombshell of an order. If she ever becomes an enemy, Midori must not save her, but instead use her powers for her own sake. Midori is left reeling, desperately insisting she isn't the person Lapis thinks she is. But Midori refuses to let go. In a moment of raw honesty, she confesses her own selfishness, admitting she's used her foresight for one reason only, because she simply cannot imagine a future without Lapis. A soft, determined smile breaks across Midori's face as she makes a solemn vow. She might not be able to promise everything, but she swears on her life. She will never, ever become Lapis's enemy. The heavy tension is suddenly shattered when Midori bursts in, shouting about the king's parade. As Midori drags a flustered Midori away, Lapis watches them go with a soft, lingering gaze, telling them to have fun. Left alone in the silence, the Villainess is completely undone. One heartfelt confession was all it took to leave Lapis utterly smitten and blushing. Lapis gazes at a mysterious orb, the weight of her destiny pressing down on her. She knows the warnings, and she knows the truth. She is, after all, Lapis Tenebrae. Now that the adrenaline has faded, reality hits Midori like a freight train. She spirals into a total panic, wondering why on earth she just said something so bold and egotistical, right to her boss's face. Midori drags the spiraling Midori to a secret vantage point, the church's bell tower. As they look out over the breathtaking cityscape, the sheer beauty of the view momentarily stills Midori's racing heart. And Midori drops a compliment, so sweet it leaves Midori completely short-circuited. Between the sudden affection and the romantic atmosphere, Midori starts to wonder if she's accidentally entered a dating sim. But it also sparks a new dream for her future. Midori reveals her heart's true desire. She doesn't want to be a warrior who beats up bad guys, but someone who can protect the people who matter most. With a look of pure determination, she asks if she can be that protector for Midori too. Midori is determined to change the story, but a sudden crisis strikes. She lunges forward with a desperate cry, refusing to let the original plot unfold. With a chaotic crash, she slams right into a stranger. The man is completely blindsided, wondering if this was some kind of magic, or just a very clumsy entrance. As she's held in his arms, the truth hits her like a ton of bricks. This is the fated encounter between the heroine and the prince, the one person Midori dreaded meeting most. Enter Crown Prince Gran. To the world, he's a charming prince, but to Midori, he's the monster who is destined to kill Lapis. In the original game, this was the start of a romance, a daring rescue from runaway horses leading to an exclusive tea party. Now Midori finds herself trapped in that very tea party. While the setting is elegant and dreamy, her mind is screaming in pure panic. Gran is perfectly polite, finding it amazing that the woman he saved is Lapis's secretary. But Midori can't stop seeing the blood on his hands from the future. Every polite word feels like a trap. Midori realizes that even if she saves Lapis's life, the prince's marriage contract still looms over them. Just as Lapis calls her away, Gran's hand snaps shut around hers. His voice is soft, but his grip is firm. He wants her to stay behind with him. This is it, the legendary heart-pounding first conversation from the game. While Gran looks on with a playful smile, Midori is internally begging for an exit strategy. The man claims they're just chatting, but the air is thick with a suffocating pressure. Midori is practically shivering, realizing that this interaction is far more terrifying in person than it ever seemed through a game screen. Diana gushes about Lapis's kindness and reliability, painting a picture of a saintly woman. The man seems satisfied for a moment, but the relief is short-lived as he suddenly turns his piercing gaze toward Midori, demanding her opinion. Midori tries to play it safe, but the man presses her for specifics. Desperate to avoid a slip-up, she hides behind her professional duty as a secretary, claiming she cannot reveal employer secrets without a royal order. He closes the distance, lifting her chin with a look that feels like it's stripping away every secret she's hiding. His voice drops as he asks the one question that traps her. What if it is an order? Just as the tension reaches a breaking point, Lapis swoops in like a guardian angel. Knife in hand, she demands he step away from Midori, though the man only finds her lack of table manners amusing. Midori is having a total internal meltdown, realizing she's accidentally stolen the spotlight from the original heroine. But the excitement quickly turns to panic as she realizes how incriminating this scene would look to any outside observer. Lapis doesn't stop at the prince. She throws a bit of shade at Diana before telling the royal to stop teasing her friends. Midori, meanwhile, is completely smitten by Lapis's boldness and protective streak. Attention evaporates as the man laughs it off, revealing his true motive. He wasn't hunting for plots, but was worried Midori had used brainwashing magic to win over Lapis, who is like a little sister to him. But the mystery isn't fully solved. The man reveals he sensed a total lack of magic from Midori, making her prophetic powers an impossibility. Just as Midori panics, the man's expression shifts. He's not suspicious, he's absolutely fascinated. The scary prince has vanished, replaced by a total geek. He launches into a relentless barrage of questions about Midori's homeworld and her status as a human familiar, leaving Midori completely blindsided by his sudden familiar mania. The air is thick with tension as Lapis wonders if it's appropriate to discuss her secretary's performance while on the clock. Midori's heart is hammering against her ribs. She's desperate to know what Lapis thinks of her, yet terrified of the answer. Then comes the onslaught. Lapis launches a perfect combo of critiques, calling Midori reckless, timid, and obsessed with food. While Midori is left emotionally devastated, a curious royal asks the real question. If she's so flawed, why keep her around? Lapis doesn't deny Midori's lack of professional skill, but she reveals a deeper truth. Beyond the basic chores, she sees the genuine care Midori puts into everything. Preparations made specifically to make Lapis's life easier, all in the details. From perfectly labeled data notes to spotless ink bottles and thoughtful thank you messages, Midori's dedication is hidden in the tiny, invisible ways she supports her employer. Minor things have a major impact. Lapis confesses that Midori's thoughtfulness brings rare sense of peace to her daily life, leaving Midori in shock. Lapis actually noticed. The world seems to fade away as their eyes meet. For Midori, this is the ultimate validation. The the realization that she is truly seen and appreciated by the woman she admires most. With a confident flourish, Lapis proudly recommends Midori to the royal, claiming her value goes far beyond simple skill. Midori is completely overwhelmed with gratitude. The ultimate professional win. But as the royal offers her a position, Midori feels a strange burning sensation in her chest. She should be happy, but this feeling is something entirely different. Forget the career move. Midori snaps and clings to Lapis, declaring her absolute loyalty with a passion that leaves Lapis completely stunned. The royal is left speechless by the sudden outburst. As for Lapis, she's just trying to process the fact that her secretary is far more devoted than she ever imagined. A rare, relaxed expression crosses Lapis's face, and for Midori, it's almost too much to handle. Watching her employer look so peaceful, Midori can't help but admit it to herself. She really truly loves Lapis. Suddenly, a blonde man interrupts the moment, claiming he wants to give them a reward and is willing to pay any price for it. Midori is completely flustered, but the man's comment about her being a reliable knight only adds to the confusion. Tension spikes when Lapis suddenly pulls Midori into a possessive squeeze. While the man demands she let go of the secretary, Lapis isn't having it, coldly declaring that she's the one protecting Midori from him. With a sharp movement, Lapis shuts the man down, commanding him to let go of her. The man quickly retreats, offering a humbled apology as the atmosphere shifts back to the two women. Lapis turns away. Midori is left reeling from a burning sensation in her chest. She realizes that if she just keeps ignoring this feeling, she might actually be able to stay by Lapis's side forever. For the first time in her life, Midori feels like she truly belongs, finding happiness in a job where her employer actually values her work. Just as she's lost in thought, Lapis's voice pulls her back. Midori? Looking at Lapis, Midori's heart swells with a fierce devotion. She makes a silent vow to herself. She will do whatever it takes to ensure Lapis never has to frown like that again. A far cry from where she started. After 3 exhausting years as a disposable worker in Japan, Midori's life was at its limit, until she was summoned into a game world by none other than the infamous Villainess, Lapis. Determined to be the perfect professional secretary this time, Midori goes into complete overkill mode. From hearty soups and lap blankets to curated books and business reports, she's providing everything, only to realize she's become a total busybody in a single breath. But Lapis does the unthinkable. She tells Midori to eat with her. Seeing through Midori's disheartened look, Lapis's unexpected kindness hits Midori like a tidal wave of emotion. Midori is in a total emotional meltdown, locked away in the summoned familiar holding area. Lapis asks why she's hiding in such a place, but Midori is too busy swooning over the fact that Lapis actually seemed worried about her. Even as Lapis brushes her off with a cold whatever and slams the door, Midori's heart is practically exploding from the job well done feeling. Midori is floating on cloud 9, but the moment of bliss is cut short when Lapis simply says, "See you later," and walks away. Once alone, Midori snaps back into professional mode. She reminds herself of the ultimate goal: save her employer from a tragic death and, more importantly, secure her own employment by rewriting the plot. To change the future, Midori starts recalling the original game's first chapter. She remembers Diana, a commoner student, being bullied and attacked by arrogant upperclassmen with a powerful wind spell called Tempestus. Watching the sheer power of the attack in her memory, Midori gets a dangerous idea. What if she just copies the chant? Tempestas! Midori gives it a shot, but this isn't a controlled game mechanic. A massive, violent whirlwind erupts instantly, shredding the floor and sending everything flying. Lapis, witnessing the chaos, can only stare in absolute shock at the destruction her secretary just unleashed. The windstorm is out of control, forcing everyone to scream and run for their lives. Just as things look dire, a mysterious blonde student steps in, summoning a colossal fire dragon with the command, "Ignis Draco!" to incinerate the storm and bring the chaos to a sudden, scorching halt. The savior reveals himself as the student council president. And he's not happy. With a calm but piercing gaze, he points out that fighting without the proper paperwork or a referee is a serious violation of school rules. The bullies who started the fight are so terrified by his presence that they practically vanish, begging for excuse to leave. The president turns his attention to Diana, gently healing her, while warning her about the dangers of reckless power. He recognizes her as Lapis's friend and notes that her magical strength is far beyond the norm. Then, he drops a line that leaves Diana completely flustered. "I will teach you." As the student council president, he explains that he can't have school property being destroyed daily. He offers Diana a deal. If she learns to control her special affinity under his guidance, she'll become exponentially stronger. Diana is completely captivated, her eyes sparkling at the prospect of growth. And just like that, Diana's secret training begins. Midori, meanwhile, has a plan. If she can keep Diana and the president away from the holding area, she can derail the original plot entirely. But as she's diligently sweeping the floors, a familiar voice pops up behind her. Midori-san has arrived, and she's determined to help Midori clean. Despite Midori's frantic attempts to send her back to class, Diana's sincere, puppy dog eyes are too much to handle. Unable to resist her favorite character's charm, Midori completely folds, welcoming the help with a defeated but happy sigh. While Diana cheerfully asks Midori where to gather leaves, Midori is lost in a heavy realization. She admits to herself that her drive to be a busybody comes from a deep-seated fear of seeing others disappointed. A selfish cycle that she now realizes is exactly why she was fired from her previous job. Suddenly, the quiet air is shattered as Diana lets out a spirited yah and swings her broom with surprising intensity. Natalie can only watch in shock as the energetic girl practically lunges forward. Trembling with nerves, Natalie frantically asks if she's done something to make Diana angry. Diana immediately softens, apologizing and revealing that she's noticed Midori has seemed depressed ever since the Harvest Festival. Recalling a moment from the past, Diana reminds Natalie that her power is like a glistening sword that cuts through nothing but evil. With a tender gaze, she tells Midori she wants to use that same strength to cut through all her worries and negative feelings. Deeply moved, Natalie beams with a heartfelt thank you. Watching this, Midori is overcome with admiration, remembering how Diana's hard-working and kind nature always gave her energy during her darkest days at work. Confirming that Diana truly is her favorite. With the mood lifted, Diana enthusiastically suggests they wrap things up and head back to the classroom. But as they move, Diana suddenly notices something. Midori's hands are freezing, prompting a worried cry of concern. Without hesitation, Diana asks for Midori's hands and then takes her face in her own, pressing her warm palms against Midori's cheeks. While a flustered Midori worries that Diana will catch a chill, Diana just smiles, claiming she's nice and hot after all that exercise. Diana flashes an absolute SSR smile that leaves Midori completely dazed and blushing, thinking she's way too cute. But the sweetness vanishes in an instant as Diana's expression turns stern, delivering a sharp warning. Midori is not to go around touching any boys like this. Midori can't help but smile, praising Diana for being such a nice and kind girl, even to someone like her. As the moment lingers, Midori gently reminds her that break time is over and it's time to go. Just as they turn to leave, Diana leans in close, her voice dropping with sudden intensity. She clarifies that she isn't being kind because she's a nice girl, but because Midori is important to her, and she intends to protect the smiles of everyone she cherishes. The air is thick with tension as Lapis leans in, her voice a soft but firm command. Stop belittling yourself. Midori is completely floored, her brain practically shutting down as she stutters, unable to even finish her own name. But the romantic mood is shattered in an instant. A loud-mouthed upperclassman storms in, screaming at her irritating little familiar and ordering her companion, Midori, to stay put. The piece is officially dead. Things go from awkward to hostile fast. The upperclassman recognizes Midori's jewel and her reputation as the commoner who summoned a dragon, but she's not impressed. She decides to teach Midori her place in the world, and Midori realizes with a jolt. This is exactly how the original story played out. But Midori isn't just going to be a victim. With a sudden cold shift in her gaze, she fires back. It's the bullies who need to learn their place. Even as she trembles in fear, she can't help but wonder if she's trapped in the original plot. The arrogant noble struts away, confident in her own strength and leaving her familiar behind. While others suggest calling Lapis for help, Midori knows that's not the real issue. The real problem is the disaster about to unfold. The upperclassman doesn't take the slight well. Mocking Midori for being a commoner with nothing but raw energy, she unleashes a powerful spell, Tempestus. But as the attack surges forward, Midori's eyes sharpen. She's not scared, she's analyzing. The wind blast is devastating, tearing through the courtyard and sending the arrogant nobles flying. But in the chaos, the tables are turning faster than they can imagine. A small, confident smirk plays on Midori's lips. Before the bullies can even process what's happened, she rains down a barrage of high-level spells, Fortune Ventum, Meteorite, and Eruptio. And the absolute kicker? She claims she's still learning. Surrounded by a dazzling array of magic circles, Midori looks like a goddess of destruction. With a playful, almost terrifying politeness, she asks her dear upperclassmen to keep teaching her more. The bullies are in complete shock. They can't comprehend how a commoner can wield multiple elements with such power or copy their spells instantly. The secret is finally out. Midori possesses the protagonist's special attribute, magic mimicry. Air crackles with raw power as the protagonist unleashes a devastating display of magic. She possesses a terrifying ability, the power to mimic any spell she has ever seen, and with her overwhelming mana, the result is a reproduced attack multiplied several times over in strength. With a sudden burst of energy, she blasts her opponents back, leaving them reeling. While she started as a student who could barely cast a spell, Her time at school is rapidly transforming her into a magical powerhouse. Amidst the chaos, a commanding presence arrives. Lapis steps forward, her gaze cold and calculating as she asks a question that feels more like a threat. Does a scratch like that hurt? Lapis doesn't hold back, demanding the noble girls stop treating their familiar so roughly. But the girls are blinded by pride, sneering at her as a peasant. Right before a massive explosion titled Erupto rips through the ground, leaving Midori frozen in shock. The blast is blinding, and as a voice cries out for Midori-sa, Lapis reacts with lightning speed. Her expression shifts into one of absolute focus as she intercepts the danger. One word cuts through the noise, run. In an instant, a colossal surge of magic erupts, obliterating the cobblestones and turning the battlefield into a crater of debris. As the dust settles, Lapis stands perfectly composed, casually noting that the situation was quite dangerous. Overwhelmed by her strength and grace, Midori can only call out her name in sheer admiration. The daughters of Count Vaintos and Count Folium desperately try to shift the blame to a commoner. But Lapis isn't buying it. Her voice drops to a chilling tone, declaring that treating a familiar roughly is an unforgivable sin. Enter Crown Prince Gran, holding the injured familiar with a look of stern disapproval. As student council president, he doesn't just offer a warning. He threatens to report their family names to the faculty, unless the creature is taken to the doctor immediately. The prince turns his attention to Diana, questioning if she's Lapis's friend while reminding her that she's also facing punishment. Diana tries to play innocent, but the prince shuts her down with a cold fact. She destroyed everything in sight that wasn't Lapis or Midori. Left with no excuse, Diana can only clench her fist in silent frustration. Midori is completely crushed, haunted by the feeling that she was useless when it mattered most. But the prince offers a surprising perspective, telling her that, in reality, she is actually quite strong. Then comes the big reveal. Midori possesses the rare magical attribute of mimicry. While it has no specific specialty, it's an all-enveloping power that can theoretically cast any spell at 100% of its strength. But there's a harsh catch. As a commoner, Midori lacks the fundamental knowledge and training that nobles like Lapis have had since birth. A gap in skill that almost proved fatal. While seeing an opportunity, Lapis suggests a punishment that's actually a golden ticket, having the student council president, Diana, personally give Midori supplementary magic lessons. In a rare moment of genuine tenderness, Lapis tells Midori that not knowing isn't a sin. She encourages her to stop doubting herself and start learning about the world and her own worth. Overwhelmed by Lapis's support, Midori's resolve snaps into place. With tears in her eyes, she begs Her Highness to make her stronger so she can protect the people who are important to her. Diana sighs, agreeing to watch over her until she's no longer a danger to other students. Midori wonders if this is her punishment, but Diana quickly corrects her. Lapis simply needs her. Lapis plays it off with a classic smirk, claiming she's just giving Diana a troublesome job by lending him her most trustworthy and capable attendant. The words hit Midori like a ton of bricks. Lapis shuts down her self-deprecation, firmly reminding her that she is highly valued by those around her. Lapis's final advice to broaden her horizons and see herself through others' eyes sinks in deep. For Midori, these words are far more than just a lesson. They're a lifeline that seeps into her very soul. Will you accept? With tears of hope in her eyes, Midori gives the only answer she can. A resounding yes, promising to give it her absolute all. But the story of Fairy Tale of Jewels is never simple. As Gran-kun and the protagonist grow closer, a group of hateful nobles discovers their secret, using it as a spark to ignite a duel. Diana doesn't flinch, challenging them to prove her worth once and for all. Midori, this is like watching her favorite game come to life in high definition. She's absolutely floored to see that the training sections, which were just menus in the game, are actually this intense in reality. Stepping in with some tea, Midori catches a glimpse of Diana's unwavering determination. As the two trainees share a moment, Midori can't help but look on with pure heartfelt admiration. When Midori tries to brush herself off as insignificant, Diana stops her cold. Gripping her hands tight, Diana reminds her that Midori suffered a punishment just to protect her. And that is something she will never forget. The air turns soft as Diana confesses that Midori's support made her truly happy. With a tender smile, she delivers the words Midori needs most. You're also very important to me. Diana's kindness is almost too much to handle. Between cheering her on and gently insisting she take a break for tea, Midori finds herself completely overwhelmed by the warmth. Blushing furiously, Midori's heart races. She knows she should rest, but how can she, when Diana keeps giving her this much motivation? Then, the scene shifts to some high-speed office work. Using a pocket calculator, Midori breezes through budget proposals, leaving Gran-kun absolutely stunned by her sorcery. But as he thanks her, he drops a bombshell. He can tell just how much she loves Lapis. Midori tries to play it cool, insisting it's just respect. But Gran-kun isn't buying it. That's love, he declares, leaving a flustered Midori scrambling to deflect the attention back to him. Gran reveals a cold truth about the nobility. Marriages are less about love and more like business contracts. He explains the crushing weight of the royal duty, where the heir or their bride must possess water or holy attributes to maintain the kingdom's barrier. But for Gran, destiny dealt a cruel hand. Instead of the expected water attribute, he discovered his power was fire, a revelation that left him questioning whether he should live for the people or for himself. Driven by a desperate need to lead, a young Gran approaches Lapis Tenebrae with a calculated proposal. Calling himself a defective piece, he asks her to enter a marriage contract, admitting he only needs her water attribute to become king. He doesn't ask for affection, only for her to be a queen who fights for the country. To Gran, the monarch isn't just another piece on the board. They are the player who controls the entire game. Lapis doesn't offer comfort. Instead, she gives him a brutal lesson in leadership, warning him that a ruler must be prepared to sacrifice their own pieces. Even while pointing out his flaws, she acknowledges his potential as a ruler, sparking a fire of respect in him. With Lapis by his side, Gran finally found a future to believe in, though he still feels he falls short of the ruler she would truly respect. Then he turns to Midori with a question that freezes the air. Can her precognition see Lapis's future? Midori's heart sinks as the original plot flashes before her eyes. In the game, Lapis becomes a tyrant who slaughters commoners, only to be executed by Gran in a tragic act of salvation for the country. In a world designed for the protagonists to thrive, the Villainess is nothing more than a stepping stone. Midori realizes with a surge of dread that, according to the story, there is absolutely no future for Lapis. But the Gran standing before her now is different. Clenching his fist with fierce determination, he declares his duty to bring happiness to the people, and to Lapis. While Diana finds his resolve admirable, Gran drops a bombshell on a stunned Midori. With a confident smile, he reveals the truth of his identity. He is a member of the royal family. Sipping her tea with an air of calm authority, Lapis asserts that commoners are tough and will find their own happiness regardless of the circumstances. Midori can only watch in mesmerized silence, whispering her name in awe. Suddenly, Midori's brain practically shuts down. That line, it's the legendary signature line from the final battle of Chapter 1. And Lapis just dropped it in real life. Midori recalls the original game, where the protagonist and Gran-kun shared a perfectly poised, polite romance. But looking at the chaotic bickering happening right now, she realizes this reality is far more lively and enjoyable. Lapis goes on the offensive, roasting the prince as a show-off and questioning if he even needs to become king. Midori is caught in the middle, sweating as the tension spikes. Then, Lapis drops a perspective that stops him cold. She thinks it would be a complete waste for someone with his talents to be limited to the throne. She paints a vivid picture of a different future, one where he is a passionate researcher of familiars, or a professor that students can truly rely on. Her logic is simple yet profound. If he chooses a path for his own sake, he can still live for the sake of the people without sacrificing his own happiness. The prince is completely shaken. The idea of being a researcher or professor resonates deeply within him, and a genuine hopeful smile finally breaks across his face. Recognizing that Midori's presence has shifted the world's values, the prince offers her a sincere thank you for supporting Lapis, and asks her to continue doing so. But the moment he asks to consult with Midori again, the peace is obliterated. Lapis erupts in a jealous frenzy, screaming a definitive absolutely not while Midori panics. Midori arrives with a report from His Highness, delivering it in his stead since he's too busy to attend. Lapis accepts the document with a cool gaze, asking how things have been going. With a bright smile, Midori reports that Diana is progressing wonderfully, though she notes that Diana and Gran-kun haven't really gotten closer. Lapis remains composed, simply telling her to continue as she is. Midori is practically glowing with happiness. After spending so much time apart, just a few moments with Lapis have completely refilled her job worth doing energy, leaving her feeling an inexplicable sense of satisfaction. While navigating the halls, Midori is nearly knocked over by a group of busy school maids. But as one particular maid passes by, a sudden jolt of recognition hits her. This feels exactly like last time. Unable to contain herself, Midori shouts out the name. "You're Vino!" The maid freezes in absolute shock, wondering who this woman is and how she could possibly know her real name. Before Midori can say another word, a hand clamps firmly over her mouth. Vino's gaze is sharp and mysterious, telling her there's no need to say anything because he'll know the truth when he sees it. Internally, Midori is having a total meltdown. She's completely smitten by Vino's fluffy fox ears and adorable maid outfit, all while frantically wondering if he's using mind-reading magic on her. Vino is visibly annoyed that his secret name was shouted in public, reminding Midori that they are both Lapis's underlings. But Midori knows the game's secret. Vino is a master spy who uses mind reading to infiltrate both noble and commoner organizations. The game's lore reveals a tragic path. Abandoned as a child and raised in a church, Vino was eventually charmed by Diana's sincerity. In the original story, this leads him to betray Lapis and lead the commoner forces against her. The mood shifts instantly as Vino delivers a cryptic, chilling message for Lapis about crows and diamonds. Midori can only watch in shock as the warning leaves a heavy tension in the air. The maid is absolutely livid, warning Midori that the information she's chasing could literally cost lives. But Midori doesn't budge. She's convinced that Lapis needs this knowledge to protect what truly matters. With a gentle smile, Midori plays her trump card, revealing she can glimpse the future and appealing to the maid's hidden kindness. It works. The flustered maid gives in, leaving the mission in Midori's capable hands. But as Midori walks away, the maid's expression turns cold. She's seen the truth inside Lapis's mind, and it's a nightmare. The admirable woman Midori sees is nothing but a facade. Reality is a bloodbath. Lapis's true goal is the total annihilation of the anti-noble faction, and she's willing to sacrifice her own household, her country, and even her own life to see every enemy dead. I have no idea why you're so fixated on her, the maid sighs, leaving Midori with one final chilling warning: run away now, before you're dragged down into that darkness. Meanwhile, magic practice is in full swing, and Diana is determined to prove herself. She nails a water spell with a triumphant shout, only for it to backfire instantly, leaving her completely drenched and utterly embarrassed. As Diana is dripping wet and feeling uncool, Lapis appears like a savior, gently warning her about catching a cold. The gesture sends Diana into a state of pure bliss, swearing her eternal loyalty as Lapis's guard. Diana doesn't hold back, roasting her senior for not being half as respectable as Lapis. While Lapis accepts the praise with a calm smile, Midori can't shake a nagging feeling. Is this kindness just another piece of a larger, colder plan? Lapis claims her visit was just a whim, but Midori is torn. She wants to believe in Lapis's heart, yet the maid's warning echoes in her head, making her wonder if she's been blind to the truth all along. Then, Lapis drops a bombshell, admitting she only came because she thought Midori might be getting too close to others. Midori freezes. Did the cold, calculating Villainess actually come here just for her? Lapis is completely flustered, her usual composure crumbling as she tries to play it cool. She claims she was only checking in as her master because Midori had been suspiciously quiet about herself this morning. The mask slips even further as Lapis admits the truth. She hated being apart and couldn't stop thinking about Midori. To save face, she tries to blame it on Midori's own busybody nature rubbing off on her. Overwhelmed by the sudden confession, Midori can only blush in silence. In this moment, she finds herself wishing her fake prophetic powers were actually real. Her heart aches with a bittersweet realization. Midori wonders how someone who is destined to throw away her family, her country, and her own life could possibly see her as important too. Clutching her chest, Midori is lost in a wave of emotion. She wonders what Lapis treasures most in this world, and if it would be a mistake for her to treasure that same thing. The scene shifts to a formal meeting where Lapis plays the part of the perfect daughter. With a polished smile, she accepts her father's order to inspect the border and reports that school has been perfectly fine. The atmosphere turns ice cold the moment her father tries to have a friendly chat as parent and child. Lapis's warmth vanishes instantly, treating his request as nothing more than a command to be executed. Back in the carriage, the mood flips to pure comedy as Midori beams with pride. She gushes about how His Highness practiced her calculator skills, calling the sound like a musical instrument, while a curious Lapis insists she must see this for herself. Noticing that Lapis seems unusually gentle, Midori thinks this might be her chance to finally uncover the villainess's true motives. But just as she's feeling hopeful, she remembers a message left for Lapis by Vino. The gentle Lapis vanishes in a heartbeat, replaced by a terrifying murderous glare that makes Midori twitch in fear as she reads the cryptic warning about crows and diamonds. Lapis's voice drops to a chilling tone. I see. Lapis shuts down Midori's offer to help with a reply and gives a stern warning. Stay away from Vino. But as a maid scolds Midori for her impulsiveness, Midori can't help but think about how close she and Vino already are. Lapis wonders if Midori has always been such an easy mark, warning her that her kindness is a magnet for swindlers. When Midori mentions her time in the student council, Lapis expects a star pupil, only for Midori to frantically clarify that she was nothing more than a lowly errand runner. Despite being a peon, Midori remembers those days with a genuine smile. It was actually fun. A glimpse into her past reveals a diligent high schooler, greeting her peers with a bright smile as part of the student council. Even back then, Midori was the one doing the heavy lifting. Her friend tries to comfort her nerves, but the work never stops. She's tasked with chasing down a missing budget proposal from the basketball club. Chaos erupts at the gym the moment Midori mentions the proposal. As the basketball team spirals into a full-blown panic over their lost paperwork, Midori saves the day with her signature foresight. She brought a spare. Midori's kindness turns her into an accidental goddess in the eyes of the basketball team. While she politely declines their invitation to join the club, she takes a moment to appreciate the grueling hard work the athletes put in. Witnessing that raw determination to win leaves a lasting impression on Midori. It's a pattern of her life, always the supportive one, greeting everyone with a smile while others chase their dreams. When her friend returns with a victory, Midori's joy is absolute. In that moment, she realizes her true calling. She doesn't need to be the star. She finds her happiness in supporting others from the shadows. Lapis finds Midori's past splendid. But for Midori, the dream shattered after graduation. The corporate world didn't want a supportive behind-the-scenes worker. They wanted stars. And Midori quickly realized she didn't fit the mold. In the cold light of job interviews, Midori feels like a ghost. Watching the stars get picked, she's left with a crushing realization. She simply doesn't belong in a world that only values the spotlight. Memories flood back, the crushing weight of a corporate world that never saw her value. Midori recalls the endless shouting from older employees, demanding more ambition and dismissing her as disposable. Day after day, she was left drowning in a sea of paperwork, completely lost. Believed the lie that her lack of identity was her own fault. After her health collapsed and she drifted through temporary jobs, she finally finds herself looking at the woman who changed everything. With a soft smile, Midori confesses that Lapis is her savior. Midori panics internally, terrified that she's exposing too many of her flaws. But Lapis remains composed, shifting the conversation to the mine they are visiting. A place that produces stones considered worthless by most. While Midori listens in curiosity, Lapis explains the hidden potential of those stones. They might not be natural centerpieces, but in the hands of a skilled craftsman, they can be molded into something extraordinary. Lapis describes the birth of beautiful silver, revealing a profound truth. No matter how brilliant a centerpiece is, it cannot shine without a beautiful base to support it. This, she explains, is the pride of the Tenebrae family, the art of supporting the leading actors. Words hit Midori like a tidal wave. Lapis tells her that she should be angry at those who made her suffer, firmly asserting that her family would never claim there is no worth in those who work behind the scenes. Lapis looks directly at her, her voice steady and affirming. She delivers the one line Midori has waited her whole life to hear. The conclusion she reached about herself wasn't wrong. The dam finally breaks. Overwhelmed by a kindness she never thought she deserved, Midori collapses into tears, sobbing apologies through her grief. Gently, Lapis reaches out to wipe away the tears, telling her there is absolutely nothing to apologize for. Midori looks up, her heart overflowing with gratitude for the woman who finally sees her. But as Midori finds peace, Lapis's expression turns cold and distant. In the silence of her own mind, she calls Midori a fool, admitting that her entire persona is nothing more than a calculated act of deception. Lapis is starting to believe her own lie. When she's with Midori, the mask of the splendid person she pretends to be begins to feel less like an act and more like reality. A fleeting, dangerous wish crosses her mind. How blissful would it be if this superficial act were actually real? For Midori's sake and for her own. The scene shifts to the rugged Margrave territory near the border, where Lapis and Midori arrive amidst the smoke and grit of industrial smelting operations. Enter Rubius, the son of the local count. He immediately brings up rumors about Midori, sending her into a spiral of panic as she worries her presence might be tarnishing Lapis's reputation. Rubius reveals his impressive credentials as a student council vice president. Midori has a sudden hilarious realization. He's just a background character from the game. Someone so insignificant he didn't even get a character portrait. Midori finds a strange, relaxing peace chatting with an NPC, who isn't entangled in the main plot. But Lapis is watching the exchange with a look of sheer disbelief. The mood shifts when Rubius extends an invitation to a dinner party. Rubius offers to provide a dress and suggests Midori might find a marriage partner at the event. While Midori hesitates, Lapis encourages her with a smile, privately convinced that this is a good thing. The mask slips, revealing a chilling truth. Lapis isn't playing matchmaker for love. She's calculating how a marriage could expand her information network, driven by a dark obsession with revenge and a vow to sacrifice any piece that isn't essential to her goal. The night of the party arrives, and Midori transforms into a breathtaking vision of elegance in her new gown. Beside her, Lapis stands in stunning cold contrast. As she prepares to face the night, she hardens her heart, reminding herself that Lapis Tenebrae has no room for emotions. Midori is playing her part to perfection, masking everything behind a polished high-society facade. It's a game she's played her entire life, concealing the truth with an elegant, gaudy farce. But then, Midori does the unthinkable. With a radiant blushing smile, she lunges forward and pulls Lapis into a sudden tight embrace. Lapis is absolutely short-circuited. She can't even form a coherent sentence, completely blindsided by this sudden burst of affection. Romantic tension is high, but the reality of high society fashion hits hard. Back in the dressing room, Lapis is tightening Midori's corset so much that she's practically fighting for air. While Midori struggles to breathe, she admires Lapis's endurance. But Lapis reveals a cold truth. The corset isn't just for fashion. It's a shield to keep her true self hidden from the world. Midori's genuine admiration hits Lapis like a ton of bricks. Lapis tries to brush it off as Midori being too kind to everyone. But Midori isn't backing down. She truly believes Lapis is incredible. Inside, Lapis is spiraling, convinced that Midori only loves a fake version of her. In a desperate attempt to push her away, she suggests Midori find a rich husband and quit her job, all while subconsciously squeezing Midori's hand. Just as Lapis tries to distance herself, Midori drops a bombshell. She looks Lapis straight in the eye and admits the one thing Lapis feared most. She knows, is out. From the commoner purge plan to every single one of Lapis's sins, Midori reveals that her prophetic powers weren't a lie. She's known the truth about the Villainess all along. Lapis is frantic, demanding to know why anyone would serve a monster who knows her darkest secrets. But Midori's answer is simple and heartbreaking. Because Lapis was the only one who gave her a place to belong. Midori opens up about the hollow ache of her past, admitting that in her old world she felt completely disposable. As if everything would be just fine even if she didn't exist. That crushing loneliness followed her even here, leaving her terrified and desperate to run away when she first arrived in this strange new land. But everything changed with a few words from Lapis. Midori realizes that instead of fighting to stop the Villainess's plans, she found a deeper, more satisfying purpose, protecting the things Lapis truly treasures. With raw honesty, Midori tells Lapis that if she's truly no longer needed, she's prepared to move on even to get married or find a new job. But she can't bear the thought of a one-sided bond where her feelings never actually reach the woman she serves. She knows Lapis could easily survive without her, but Midori's heart wants more. She desperately hopes that the things Lapis cherishes might one day cherish her in return. Lapis looks at her, her expression unreadable yet intense. She asks the one question that cuts through the tension. Does Midori still want to stay by her side, even knowing the dreadfulness of her plans? The answer is a heartbreaking no. Overwhelmed by her own perceived helplessness, Midori insists she has no right to ask for anything in return because she can't protect a single thing. A soft, pained apology escapes her lips. Before Midori can spiral further into her guilt, Lapis closes the distance in one swift motion, pulling her into a sudden, breathtaking embrace. As they cling to each other, Lapis whispers a bittersweet promise. She admits that when the time eventually comes, she will be the one to let go of Midori's hand. But the tenderness quickly shifts into something more possessive. Lapis holds her tight, her voice leaving no room for doubt. For this moment, Midori belongs entirely to her. Seen through the window of the moonlit room, the two are locked in a fragile, intimate world of their own. Their faces are inches apart, the air thick with a claim that transcends the roles of master and servant. You're mine. A moment of pure ethereal magic as Midori and Lapis share a breathtaking kiss. Breathless and overwhelmed, Midori can only whisper her mistress's name. Morning arrives, and Midori is already in full secretary mode. With a bright smile, she wakes Lapis, reminding her that it's time to return to the capital, and that breakfast is ready for the journey. But Lapis is not making it easy, stubbornly rolling back into her blankets. Desperate to avoid traveling the mountain roads in the dark, Midori takes drastic measures and pounces on her to force her awake. The sudden closeness leaves Midori completely flustered, but Lapis remains cool and collected. With a teasing glint in her eye, she reminds Midori that while she should be cherished, that doesn't mean she's allowed to be spoiled. Midori practically leaps away in a panic, her face burning. Yet, as she settles, a realization hits her like a bolt of lightning. That kiss wasn't just a dream. Switching instantly back to professional duty, Midori snaps to attention as the maids arrive. But just as they part, Lapis leans in close for a whispered "see you later" that sends Midori's heart racing once again. Waiting by the carriage, Midori is lost in a daze, wondering if she's actually the one being spoiled here. Meanwhile, Lapis watches her, satisfied that her feelings are finally getting through. Then comes the command that makes Midori's world spin. Sit next to me. Overwhelmed by the gesture, Midori clings to Lapis, wondering if it's truly okay to believe that her own devotion is being returned. The journey is a blur of heart-pounding excitement and hand-holding, ending at the magnificent royal palace under a starry sky. Lapis tells her to rest before tomorrow's visit. But as Midori reaches for a bag, Lapis stops her cold. Midori tries to insist on sorting through paperwork, but Lapis has other plans. In one swift move, she pulls Midori right into her arms, declaring that her secretary is far too tired to worry about work right now. Lapis suddenly takes a turn for the considerate, telling Midori she can let someone else handle the luggage. Midori is left completely bewildered. Since when did the Villainess start acting like this? Over tea, Lapis thanks Midori for her hard work in the border region. But as she leans in to demand a report, the sudden intensity of her gaze leaves Midori flustered and blushing. A blonde man comments on how good it is that the two of them are happy. But the mood is quickly interrupted by Rubius. Lapis doesn't waste a second, shutting down the conversation to handle the vice president's intrusion. Midori tries to excuse herself to prepare tea, but Lapis isn't letting her go. With a sharp ring of a bell, she summons a maid to do the work and commands Midori to simply sit down and stay. Then comes the move that freezes Midori in place. Lapis takes her hand, claiming her own hands are empty, and demanding that Midori stay by her side. Midori's brain practically shuts down from the sheer boldness of it. Midori wonders if she's just some sort of pet or a summoned beast, but she can't deny the feeling. Being trusted and acknowledged for her work makes her heart swell with a happiness she can't explain. Later, Rubius checks in on Midori's health, and the two quickly realize they're cut from the same cloth. They both share a strange workaholic nature, finding their only true relaxation in the middle of a busy schedule. A glimpse into the past reveals Rubius's long history of guiding the blonde man, acting as a stern but loyal mentor. Midori observes them and realizes that their bond is far deeper than any game plot ever suggested. Midori reflects on how a single trustworthy background character can change the lives of the main cast. If one person's loyalty could rewrite a destiny, then maybe there's hope for her too. Midori makes a silent vow to become that trusted pillar for Lapis, hoping to steer her away from villainy and protect everything she cherishes. As Lapis gives her hand a firm, affectionate squeeze, Midori's resolve hardens. Midori is done being just a passenger in this story. With a blush and a spark of determination, she vows not to be a spoiled pet, but to become the ideal background character and change the fate of the world. A memory of a party flashes back. The moment Midori rushed to Lapis, and Lapis swept her away to her room. A short-haired girl is absolutely losing it over how precious the scene was, while a stern, dark-haired woman tells her to stop daydreaming and get back to work. The short-haired girl is already imagining matching dresses for the pair, but the dark-haired woman drops a cold reminder. Regardless of the jokes, Lapis is her fiancé. But then, the short-haired girl's expression shifts as she prepares to reveal a secret she's kept from everyone. Back in the present, Diana arrives with a bright "good morning" to Lapis, though she sheepishly admits she actually overslept and missed her morning meeting with Midori. There's no hiding the truth. Diana's blush gives her away. She admits that her only real motivation is that she wanted to see Midori as soon as humanly possible. Diana is practically vibrating with excitement, thinking she'll see Midori after their training session today. But Lapis shuts that down instantly, reminding her that her training ended before the holidays because her magic control has improved. Diana refuses any special favors to extend the training, not wanting to burden Grand-senpai or Midori. Instead, she's determined to show Midori just how much stronger she's become on her own. Lapis can't help but find her spirit dazzling. Then Lapis drops a bombshell. She's already told Midori to stay by her side instead of focusing on other work. As Lapis suggests they'll have a relaxed lunch together, Diana freezes the phrase "by my side," echoing in her head and sending her into a blush-fueled panic. With a gentle, almost teasing smile, Lapis pats Diana's head and admits she's just being selfish. She's certain that Midori would be overjoyed to spend time with Diana too. Diana is completely floored by Lapis's effortless charm, calling it a smooth move. She admits that Lapis's confidence and maturity are almost frustratingly attractive. A comment that actually manages to leave the composed Lapis looking a bit flustered. With eyes full of pure admiration, a young girl pours her heart out, declaring her deepest wish. She wants to grow up to be exactly like the magnificent Lapis-sama. Lapis looks on with a soft, knowing gaze, finding that very sincerity charming before calling out to the girl Diana. But the school day isn't all sweetness. Diana finds herself cornered by a stern official who dismisses her claims of submitting her assignment as typical commoner excuses. Just as she's about to give up, a mysterious hand appears, holding the missing book. Relief is short-lived. The stranger begins reciting Diana's private life, her hometown, her family, with an accuracy that's utterly terrifying. Suddenly, Diana's body freezes in place, paralyzed by an unseen force as the stranger explains the heavy price of her current social standing. The man introduces himself as Rubius, and he isn't here for small talk. He drops a bombshell of a request. He wants Diana to become a hero. Rubius reveals a dark undercurrent at the academy. Commoner students harboring a deep, violent hatred for the nobility. He wants Diana, a fellow commoner, to help her crush this brewing rebellion before it turns into a massacre. The stakes get personal when Rubius points out that if the nobles are targeted, Lapis's attendant will be the first in the line of fire. He specifically mentions Lady Lapis's summoned familiar, Miss Midori, weaving a web of danger around those Diana cares for most. Without warning, Rubius snaps a binding spell around Diana, only for the girl to shatter the magic instantly. Rubius isn't surprised. In fact, she seems pleased that Diana possesses such raw power. With a predatory smile, Rubius dangles a tempting carrot. If Diana quells the uprising and protects the nobility, she'll receive a reward and status on par with Lady Lapis herself. Leaving Diana shaken and conflicted, Rubius gives her a few days to consider the offer. As she walks away, the silence of the hall feels heavier than ever. A serene tea time begins, but as a gentle smile graces the woman's face, a flicker of a memory haunts the young girl's eyes. Midori's genuine warmth radiates through every movement as she pours tea for Lapis, creating a rare moment of absolute tranquility. Suddenly, the past rushes back. Echoes of a voice proclaiming that her great power would become a glistening sword to cut through evil and protect those she loves. The weight of those words lingers. To be called a hero means standing on a social plane equal to the elite, a realization that leaves her breathless. Meanwhile, in the quiet of an office, a bombshell is dropped. The prince reveals a secret he's told no one. He's thinking of giving up his right to the throne. He confesses the exhaustion of trying to be the perfect royal, until Midori's words shattered his narrow world and showed him that other paths existed for him. Lapis listens, reflecting on her own decade of unwavering support for the prince, even when he was too broken to believe in himself. Midori is completely floored. The sheer influence Lapis possesses, the ability to steer a prince's entire destiny, is a power she finds absolutely mesmerizing. With a playful, knowing smile, Lapis flips the script, teasingly suggesting that Midori is the one who truly knows the secrets of persuasion. The piece is shattered by a frantic warning. The crows are moving against the diamond. Midori freezes as she realizes the original game's brutal plot has finally begun. Midori thinks the game's plot is proceeding as planned, but a sudden realization hits her like a ton of bricks. The person Diana is fighting isn't a noble. It's a commoner student. This is all wrong. Originally, this was supposed to be a battle between Diana and the nobles who hate commoners. As Lapis leaves her to keep an eye on things while she calls the prince, Midori is left spiraling. Has the plot actually changed? Then comes Sir Rubius with a chilling lesson on manipulation. He explains that the secret to convincing someone is simple. You erase every single option except for the correct one. He's already noticed Midori planting unnecessary ideas in the prince's head. Rubius's control goes deep. He views things like living for one's own sake as incorrect for the prince. He even reveals a dark past where he staged a fake kidnapping, just to force the prince to realize his royal responsibilities. The master plan is revealed. Rubius wants Diana to go wild in her purge and accidentally kill an innocent commoner. By framing her as the villain, Lapis and the prince can subjugate her together, turning the prince into a hero who can confidently ascend the throne. Midori is horrified. The plan is to literally switch the roles of the heroine and the villainess through blood and lies. She can't stay silent, questioning if deceiving a master and killing people is truly the correct way for a servant to act. Rubius just smiles. To him, this isn't deception. It's correcting a master who walked the wrong path. He argues that as long as it creates a stronger foundation for the king, any incorrect action is easily forgiven. He believes the prince's own obsession with correctness, and his love for the citizens will make him ignore the truth. Leaning in, Rubius asks Midori if she wanted to learn this secret trick for convincing people, but Midori isn't buying it. She declares that she is different. She will never ignore the people important to her, even if it's incorrect. Rubius simply looks on, dismissing her as nothing more than a summoned beast. Back at the scene, Diana tries to weaponize their shared commoner status, demanding to know why the student is supporting the nobles. But the student isn't swayed, pointing out the obvious. Diana was the one who attacked first. The tension is thick as a girl with a sword lets out a sharp, dismissive humph. Suddenly, the air shifts when someone calls out to Diana-chan, leaving Natalie-san completely blindsided by the interruption. A warning rings out that the area is too dangerous, and Natalie is quickly identified as a mere servant. But desperation takes over and she makes a wild offer. She'll pay whatever it takes just to put this whole conflict on hold. The shock is mutual, but a composed blonde man reveals a surprising loophole. A duel can indeed be suspended if a stipulated fee is paid. While Natalie claims she saw the rule in the student council room, Midori realizes this is just like the game's mechanic of paying coins or AP to pause a battle. With the conflict paused, the blonde man asks for Midori's name and consent, though he can't hide his amusement. He sighs, wondering if she's just eager to be punished, noting that the whole situation feels like a strange case of déjà vu. Seeing an opportunity, Midori steps forward with a tentative request. She asks if she can be the one to hear Diana-chan's story, believing the girl might speak more freely if the others aren't around. Midori pushes her point, insisting that this is their only chance to truly hear Diana out. She cheerfully invites Diana to the dorms for a leisurely chat, though her mind is secretly racing. She's dying to ask about someone named Rubius-kun, without the prince watching. As the group begins to disperse, Midori reaches out, her hand gently gripping Lapis-sama. The sudden closeness brings a moment of quiet intensity between them. Lapis tells her to head back first, warning that the conversation will take a long time. But Midori, blushing and determined, refuses to leave her side, insisting that she wants to wait. Lapis remains firm, refusing to let Midori waste her precious time. With a look of absolute authority and care, she asks Midori to simply trust her to handle the situation. Lapis finally relents, reminding Midori that she's staying at the student dormitory anyway and telling her to take her time. Grateful and beaming, Midori turns to Diana-chan, asking her to show the way to the dorms. A single touch, a sudden blush. The air between them is practically electric. Midori is completely overwhelmed, caught in a moment of pure, heart-stopping tension. But the moment breaks as Lapis departs in her carriage, leaving her secretary behind. As she settles in, a mysterious voice calls out to her, interrupting her pensive thoughts. Enter Sir Rubius, a man whose smile doesn't quite reach his eyes. He drops a bombshell. Midori is spending time with a commoner named Diana, and apparently there's a hidden agenda involved. Rubius paints a picture of a social climber trying to manipulate her way into nobility. Lapis isn't buying it, dismissing the girl as vulgar, but Rubius's warning lingers in the air. Lapis takes the warning to heart, her expression hardening. She knows this conversation is more than just idle gossip. It's a piece of a much larger puzzle. Meanwhile, Midori welcomes Diana into her space, trying to keep things professional, despite the awkwardness. But the real reason for this visit is about to come out. Diana's kindness is almost too much to handle, especially when she reaches out and takes Midori's hand. The gesture is sweet, but Midori's mind is racing with something else entirely. While they head for tea, Midori is in full strategist mode. She realizes Rubeus is following the same villainous playbook as the original game, and she's determined to use him to rewrite the plot. Then, in a desperate attempt to cover her tracks, Midori blurts out the most absurd excuse possible. She claims she's just in a rebellious phase. It's a total disaster of a lie. But Diana sees right through it. With a gentle smile and a level of understanding that leaves Midori speechless, she reminds her that she's far too kind to ever truly be rebellious. Diana recalls a chilling memory of the vice president of the student council attempting to recruit her as a hero using magic. But as the spell washed over her, she noticed something terrifyingly wrong. The magic jewel on his brooch wasn't reacting at all. Diana admits the encounter left her shaken, leading Midori to a shocking realization. Midori's mind races. If the man, Rubius, was a fraud, how could he possibly have manipulated someone as pure as Diana? Midori pictures Rubius's influence. She suspects he possesses a dangerous ability to alter perceptions. Meanwhile, Diana looks at her with a questioning gaze, recalling a specific promise Midori once made. Diana remembers the words that changed her world. Midori's claim that her power and her blade were wonderful gifts, meant only to protect the important people in her life, and cut through nothing but evil. With a soft blush, Diana reveals her true motive. She wanted to become a hero, someone as amazing as Lapis-sama, all because she thought it would make Midori happy. The truth hits Midori like a physical blow. She's been searching for the cause of the plot's deviation, only to realize the catalyst was her own words. The one who changed the story was her. Panic sets in as Midori realizes her foresight is now useless. The scenario has spiraled out of control because of her selfish words. In trying to be kind, she inadvertently pushed Diana toward a villainous fate. Diana notices her distress and softly calls her name. Midori spirals into self-doubt for a moment, but she quickly forces herself to stay composed. She can't let Diana see her panic. Putting on a brave smile, she reassures the girl that she's done nothing wrong and promises to handle everything. Midori feels a pang of guilt seeing Diana's sadness, vowing never to be the cause of that frown again. But the mood shifts instantly when Diana looks up with a tender expression, admitting how much she loves Midori's smile. Diana's vulnerability transforms into a fierce determination. She tells Midori that she doesn't want her to hide her pain or discouragement. Instead, she vows to stand by her and become the strength Midori needs. Midori is completely broken, tears streaming down her face as she takes the full weight of the situation on her shoulders. She confesses the crushing truth, that she's the one who altered the course of fate. Guilt is overwhelming. All she ever wanted was for Lapis to find happiness. But now she fears her well-intentioned interference has only caused pain. Lapis doesn't push for an apology. Instead, she asks about the visions Midori has been hiding. Midori tries to resist, but Lapis's gentle touch stops her in her tracks. Then comes the line that changes everything. Lapis isn't asking about the doomed future. She wants to know the one Midori actually desires to create. Lapis's kindness hits Midori like a tidal wave. In the midst of her panic, a spark of hope ignites. Maybe it's not too late to fix everything. With tears of determination, Midori declares her true wish, a bright future where no one is forced into the role of a villain, and no one has to lose what they love. A single word is all it takes. Lapis accepts Midori's wish, sealing a silent pact between them in the quiet of the room. Lapis pulls her into a fierce embrace, promising to be the one to lead the way. Together, they'll carve out a destiny that defies the original story. The emotional moment is cut short as they return to the estate. But waiting for them is a striking woman whose arrival immediately shifts the atmosphere. The newcomer tries to initiate a serious conversation, but Lapis isn't having it. With a possessive pull, she drags Midori away, leaving the other woman completely ignored. The future you can see beyond the light. A haunting promise as the curtain rises on chapter 16. A cold hand delivers a permit for another duel, but the noble isn't just looking for a fight. She drops a bombshell, questioning if the student is really okay with leaving Lady Midori in danger, sparking a flicker of desperation in the girl's eyes. With a cruel smile, the noble claims she'll be the one to protect her. Before the student can even process the lie, a sudden blast of magic erupts, sending her flying backward. The noble's eyes glint with malice as she declares the student's defiance a crime that must be punished. But the student doesn't flinch. She draws her blade and accepts the challenge head-on. Eel clashes against a magical barrier, but the noble sees right through the attack. She realizes the student's power is mimicry, meaning if she sticks to defense, the girl is reduced to nothing but barbaric sword skills. The watching crowd, this is a commoner daring to oppose a noble, the perfect setup to frame her as a villain. Even the noble admires the swordplay, but she's bored. It's almost time for class, and she's ready to end this. Suddenly, the tide turns as the student unleashes Aqua Cortina, a water shield, born from the rigorous training of His Highness. She's not just fighting, she's giving the noble a taste of her own medicine. The noble remains unfazed, but the student is just getting started. Having done her homework on how to counter lightning magic, she lunges forward with everything she has to finish the fight. Then comes the shocker, a sudden burst of ice. "Freeze," she commands, mocking the noble by asking if His Highness forgot to teach her this trick. But the victory is short-lived. With a chilling smile, the noble reveals the crushing truth. The student never stood a chance against someone possessing multiple magical affinities. The tension snaps as Lapis delivers a cold final verdict. With a gaze that could freeze blood, she declares it's time for the sentence to be carried out. But the tide turns in an instant. Following Lapis's lead, Midori unleashes a devastating blast, Ignis Tempestus, leaving the enemy completely blindsided. The explosion is absolute, leaving the opponent reeling in shock. As they scramble to figure out who cast the original spell, a familiar, mocking voice cuts through the smoke. Enter Lapis. Looking every bit the royal powerhouse, she plays it off as a mere coincidence. But the look on Sir Rubius's face says he knows he's in deep trouble. Desperate, Rubius tries to play his last card, offering Lapis a crown and a kingdom if she helps him crush the commoner. Lapis finds the proposal fascinating, but not for the reasons he hopes. The air turns ice cold as Lapis delivers the most brutal truth of all. No politics, no schemes, just a simple crushing admission. She simply can't stand him. Then comes the onslaught. Lapis doesn't just defeat him, she dismantles him, mocking the idea that a border count could ever manipulate royalty. Total slaughter. Rubius realizes too late that in a straight contest of power, he never stood a single chance. But the real mystery haunts him. How did Midori see through his secret storage magic? He's convinced it's impossible, yet here she is, having read him like an open book. Lapis closes the gap with a smug smile, pulling Midori close. The secret is simple. She has the most excellent secretary in the world. Lapis drops a bombshell, questioning if Rubius was the one behind the duel's chaos. But the real move is the secret note she slips to Midori, a request for a secret alliance. The plot thickens as Lapis reveals Rubius's twisted game, turning Diana into a villain just to pave the way for Prince Grand's ascension. It's a cold, calculated plan, and Lapis knows they're being watched. Guilt hits Midori hard. She's convinced her own loose tongue sparked this entire mess, but Lapis just watches her, probing for the truth. No time for self-pity. Lapis takes control with a sudden, commanding grip, giving Midori a new mission: uncover the secrets of Rubius's magic. Lapis plays her trump card, Midori's genuine kindness. Because everyone trusts her, she's the perfect spy. Midori is stunned that Lapis would entrust her with something this critical. And then comes the line that changes everything. With a look of absolute confidence, Lapis makes it clear. This isn't about strategy, it's about her trust in Midori. That one sentence is all the motivation Midori needs. She's all in, ready to deliver results, while Lapis looks on with a predatory, satisfied grin. Then the absolute madness happens. Midori doesn't just gather info. She summons a colossal dragon, calling upon a loyal retainer to unleash total devastation. In the aftermath, Lapis pulls Midori close, but the victory is interrupted. A mysterious man watches them, labeling Midori as a wicked woman with a dangerous smile. The reveal is chilling. This man sees right through Midori's facade, claiming she's just as manipulative as he is for winning over the people around her. He doesn't see a helper. He sees a mirror image of himself. Lapis reflects on the crushing weight of wanting a happy ending for everyone, only to realize that happiness isn't something you simply find, it's something you build together. And that's exactly how she was won over. Peace is shattered as Diana demands an immediate surrender. But Rubeus isn't backing down, even as he admits he's running out of power. As the chaos escalates, Lapis panics, fearing someone will be seriously injured, only for Rubeus to step into the line of fire with a chillingly calm, "It's me." But wait, Rubeus isn't just sacrificing himself. He's actually thrilled at the chance to take a hit from a dragon. Once the dust settles, the conversation shifts to the cold reality of politics and a script that's gone completely off the rails. The prince makes his position clear. He has no intention of changing, and he doesn't expect Rubeus to either. To him, this unwavering loyalty is simply the duty of a master. With a playful smirk, the prince invites Rubeus to argue with him, leaving the other man completely floored. It's a move that only proves one thing. This man is perfectly suited to be king. Lapis doesn't let the prince off easy, though. Standing by her dragon, she delivers a sharp warning. If he ever puts her precious person in danger again, someone will really get hurt next time. The prince reveals his original plan to use Midori for an anti-noble faction. But Lapis's interference has ruined the script. He mentions a radical group within the school, triggering a dark memory of a noble's death and a desperate cry for Rubeus. Quickly brushing it off as idle gossip, the prince offers Diana a calculated deal. He'll lend his aid, but only if there's a clear benefit for himself or the crown. In the quiet aftermath, Midori holds Lapis close, remembering a question about the future. She didn't want a fairy tale, just a bright world where no one ever has to let go of the things they hold dear. Midori is absolutely beaming, her heart overflowing as she realizes her deepest wish has finally come true. Unable to contain herself, Midori throws her arms around Lapis, sobbing with gratitude for the trust and belief Lapis has placed in her. Lapis returns the embrace, her voice soft as she thanks Midori for all the tireless hard work she's put in. But the mood shifts instantly when Lapis starts teasing her, pinching Midori's cheek and calling her stubborn for sulking whenever she has nothing to do. Midori is completely flustered, but she can't even deny it. It's probably true. A moment of quiet peace settles over them as they look out from the balcony, the world feeling a bit brighter. Later, Lapis is resting with a bandaged leg while a cat-eared girl expresses her deep gratitude to Lapis for relying on her, noting that Midori has stepped away to fetch a recovery potion. The girl recalls Midori's dream of a world without villains, wishing she could protect Lapis and stay by her side in that future. But a wave of sadness hits her. She knows that if she tries to grasp onto Lapis's hand, she'll only become the villain herself. A single tear falls as she grips her clothes, haunted by a painful realization. Because the person most important to Midori is none other than Lady Lapis. Diana delivers a blow of pure sincerity, insisting that Lapis will surely make Midori happy because Midori is the most important person in her life. Lapis is completely blindsided, frozen in place as Diana leans in and demands an answer. Is Midori really that important to her? The emotional pressure mounts as Diana hugs Lapis tight, practically forcing her to admit that she could never let Midori go. Overwhelmed and trembling, Lapis tries to stop the interrogation, her voice shaking as she struggles to process these feelings. But instead of backing down, Diana finds a sudden spark of resolve, declaring she can't give up before storming out of the room. A loud slam echoes through the silence, leaving Lapis alone and devastated, finally admitting to herself just how much Midori truly means to her. In the crushing quiet of her room, Lapis reaches a heartbreaking conclusion, that she must let Midori go. Time passes, and the mood shifts as Midori hums a tune while working, only to be interrupted by a cheerful Diana returning with more tasks from Lapis. Midori reflects on how her responsibilities have grown, realizing that her newfound confidence is all thanks to the support and belief someone had in her. With a tearful, grateful smile, Midori admits that while she couldn't carry her dreams alone, having such reliable people by her side changed everything. Midori is on fire. She's not just a secretary. She's become Diana's biggest cheerleader, passionately declaring that they'll support each other no matter what. Then comes the bombshell. Midori plans to visit her every single day. Diana is completely flustered by the intensity, but Midori drops a truth bomb. She doesn't even talk to anyone else besides Lady Lapis. But there's a heartbreaking reason for this bond. Midori recalls that in the original game Diana was a loner, punished and isolated. Now, because the story has shifted, she's become a complete outcast. Just as the mood turns heavy, a new opportunity appears. A notice for the Magical Cross Tournament. Midori quickly explains the sport, a high-energy game of magic-powered lacrosse, where teams of 5 compete for points. But it's not just about the game. The winner gets one wish granted by the high nobility, no matter what it is. With a determined look, Midori suggests that Diana should be the one to enter. Me? Diana is completely blindsided, but Midori doesn't let up, praising her reflexes and magic power. Diana starts to wonder, is this just a suggestion? Or is it part of Midori's mysterious foresight? Midori admits it's kind of, because of her knowledge. She knows that in the original plot, Diana needs a massive network of allies to eventually face Lapis. And this tournament is the perfect way to build those connections. But it's not all about the plot. Midori gets honest, admitting she simply wants to see Diana happy and surrounded by friends while she cheers from the sidelines. That sincerity is the final push Diana needs. She's in! The excitement is real, but there's a catch. Diana needs teammates and a coach. With a confident smile, Diana turns the tables, promising to guide Midori toward the future she desires. With a dazzling smile, Diana vows to show off her best side on the field and asks Midori to come cheer for her. As they look toward the grand school building, a new chapter begins, where Diana is no longer alone. Midori is in a fantastic mood, humming a little tune as she goes about her duties. She offers a cheerful greeting to Miss Midori, but the peaceful atmosphere is quickly interrupted by the sound of rain beginning to leak through the ceiling. When a fellow servant struggling with the leaking roof, Midori immediately steps in to help. The other woman is hesitant, feeling it's improper to ask one of Milady's retainers for help. But Midori insists that as fellow servants they must support each other. Grateful, the woman directs her toward the linen room located near Lapis's study. As she walks, Midori can't help but wonder if she meddled too much in the other woman's work. However, her thoughts are cut short when she discovers a mysterious door. She peeks inside, and her expression shifts to one of pure shock. A child's room, filled with old toys and a thick layer of dust, except for a single clear spot by the window. Midori stares at the rocking horse and teddy bear, realizing with a heavy heart that this must be the room Lapis used as a child. Just as she's lost in the melancholy of the room, a sudden firm grip seizes her from behind. Midori is yanked back with a sharp grab, coming face to face with the one person she absolutely didn't want to catch her snooping. Lapis's gaze is piercing and cold as she demands to know what Midori is doing there. Jolted by the sudden confrontation, Midori stammers out an apology, desperately claiming she was just lost while searching for the linen room. Lapis doesn't seem entirely convinced, but she calmly informs Midori that the linen room is actually on the other side, and offers to guide her. As they walk away, Midori feels a chill. She knows she just caught a glimpse of something she wasn't meant to see. But one look at the dusty, forgotten room revealed more than Lapis ever would. A glimpse into the Villainess's inner scars. Outside, the rain continues to fall relentlessly over the grand, imposing estate. The scene shifts to a formal announcement, where Lapis declares that the Magic Cross tournament will be held again this year. While Lapis maintains her usual composed facade, a spirited girl with a bow in her hair practically leaps out of her seat with an enthusiastic, "Yes!" Determined and focused, the girl fills out her registration form, confirming the ultimate prize. One wish granted, no matter what. As she prepares to enter the competition, Lapis watches from the background, her expression unreadable. The tension hits a breaking point with a demand that leaves everyone stunned. A determined blonde girl makes her move, declaring that if she wins, she wants Midori-san for herself. Meanwhile, Midori finds herself facing a literal wall. She tries the handle, but the door is firmly locked, leaving her stranded in the hallway. But then she spots it. The real-life version of Magic Cross. Midori's eyes light up as she realizes she's witnessing the events of the game's first chapter unfolding right before her. In the original story, this is where the protagonist catches the eye of Satorio, the son of the Knight Captain. Despite losing a practice match to his cheap tricks, her pure passion for the game completely captivates him. Midori is practically fangirling when she spots Satorio in the distance. But her daydreaming is cut short. A sudden urgent warning screams through the air. "Watch out!" Crash! Without warning, a girl bursts through the window in a whirlwind of motion, swooping in with a dramatic rescue that leaves Midori completely breathless. The savior is none other than Diana, who immediately checks on her. Midori can barely stammer out a response, completely overwhelmed by the sudden closeness. Diana beams with a bright smile, praising Midori's natural talent for the game. But as the mood settles, she asks a curious question. Where has Midori been practicing? The reality of the Academy's social divide hits home as Midori explains that commoners are relegated to practicing on the rooftop. She mentions that some older students had even invited her to join their starting lineup. Then comes the shocker. Diana reveals she was fired from her team because she supposedly can't use flight magic. Midori's brain practically shuts down. How can that be true when Diana just flew through a window to save her? Running at full speed with defensive magic active, Diana is pushing herself to the limit, but her confidence is shaking. She admits that even with a month of brutal drilling from Grand Senpai, she's still struggling, and now she fears she won't even be able to compete in the matches. But just as despair sets in, a supportive voice cuts through the tension. Midori refuses to let her give up, reminding Diana that she has plenty of talents beyond just magic. With a determined smile, she offers the one thing Diana needs most, a partner to help her find a team. That simple kindness hits Diana like a bolt of lightning. Looking at Midori's genuine smile, the spark of hope returns. She realizes she's not ready to throw in the towel just yet. The mood shifts instantly when a black-haired student steps in with a sharp question. She recognizes Diana as the one who summoned dragons and caused chaos in the past. And while Diana tries to play it off as things happening, the other girl is dead set against teaming up with her. The critique is brutal. The black-haired girl doesn't hold back, arguing that Diana's lack of teamwork makes her a liability who would only cause chaos for her allies. In her eyes, someone with Diana's flaws doesn't belong on a main team. They're barely fit to be a substitute. The total takedown. The girl exposes Diana's habit of trying to carry the whole game alone, only to fire off massive spells that end up injuring her own teammates. Desperate and cornered, Diana practically begs for a chance, pleading with her to team up anyway. Then, Diana reveals the real reason behind her desperation. If she can actually win the tournament, she plans to make a bold request to Lady Lapis. She wants the Villainess to give her her familiar, Midori-san. Revelation leaves the black-haired girl completely floored. While she's still processing the absurdity of the request, Diana is already in full improvement mode, treating the previous insults as helpful advice she's determined to follow. With eyes full of determination, Diana begs her to mold her into the kind of person who can actually win. Seeing that level of raw seriousness, the other girl finally lets out a sigh of defeat and agrees to help. Diana is absolutely beaming, her spirit completely revived. Watching from the sidelines, Midori can't help but reflect on how much things have shifted. Even if the original story has changed, it seems Diana is evolving into someone entirely new, one step at a time. The pressure is on as a group of students realizes they're one member short for the upcoming matches. They're desperate, but the social divide is a wall. Commoners can't just approach nobles without it being seen as harassment. Meanwhile, one girl is distracted, haunted by a strange request Diana made earlier about a familiar. Just as the mood hits rock bottom, a familiar face slides into the scene with a smug grin. Sir Rubius arrives, reminding them that he's a man of his word when it comes to offering a helping hand. But he didn't come alone. He introduces Alexandra Cecily, a skilled daughter of a baron who is still looking for a team. The commoner students are stunned, wondering if a noble would actually be okay teaming up with them. Pure joy erupts as the girls realize they can finally compete. While they shower their new member with thanks, a seed of doubt lingers. Was Sir Rubius actually being selfless, or is there a hidden motive? The scene shifts to a cold, grand hall where the real puppet master resides. A voice echoes through the silence, confirming that a certain task has been completed exactly as requested. Sir Rubius, reporting back to the formidable Lady Lapis. He plays the part of the humble servant, though he cheekily reminds her that she claimed to despise him just a few days ago. Lapis doesn't miss a beat, smoothly pivoting the conversation toward her latest scheme. She promises that this plan will benefit both Rubius and His Highness, her eyes gleaming with calculation. With a commanding presence, Lapis asks for his cooperation. Kneeling before her, Rubius doesn't hesitate for a second. He's completely under her spell. Cut to the roar of the crowd in a massive arena. The matches have finally begun, and the girls are fired up, stacking their hands in a determined huddle to stick to the plan. The team is locked in, with members pledging their loyalty to their leader. But as they prepare, a sudden warning is issued to Diana to hold back until the semifinals. Meanwhile, a rift forms within the group. While some appreciate the noble's help, others wonder if they can truly trust a teammate who barely participated in their practice session. After a sharp reprimand to not be rude, a girl with pigtails and goggles simply sighs and accepts it. But as she turns away, the scene opens up to a massive roaring stadium, the stage for something huge. The announcer's voice booms across the arena, declaring the start of the Magicross tournament. All eyes are on Diana, a player known for her overwhelming magical energy that's caused chaos all over campus. Beaming with excitement, she spots someone in the crowd and shouts, "Midori-san!" Ori watches from the stands. A soft, blushing smile on her face. Seeing her, Diana's expression shifts to one of pure determination as she grips her equipment tight, her heart racing with a silent resolve. And then she explodes into action. Leaping through the air with her net-like tool, Diana has one goal in mind. She absolutely needs to show off her cool side. With a sudden, powerful strike, she catches the ball in a blur of speed. The opposing players are left frozen in shock, barely able to scream her name in disbelief. Her teammates scream for a pass, and Diana quickly explains that their offensive strategy relies on frequent, rapid exchanges. But as she prepares her next move, a thought crosses her mind. Is it time to reveal their secret? Suddenly, the air ripples as Diana unleashes a spectacular display of magic, creating a series of shimmering portals that propel the ball forward at blinding speeds. She doesn't stop there, diving through the air in a daring high-velocity plunge toward the goal. The impact is electric. From the VIP stands, Lapis and her companions watch in awe, while Midori looks on, completely captivated by the display of skill. The announcer loses it, screaming to the crowd that the first point has been slammed home by Diana. With a triumphant grin, Diana breathes out as satisfied. All right. The match restarts. But the strategy goes out the window immediately. A girl with glasses tries to show off with a mid-air dash, only to get a brutal wake-up call from her teammate. The black-haired girl isn't having it, reminding her exactly why she was fired in the first place. Just as the glasses girl steps up to protect Lady Alexandra, she's completely sidelined. With a single cold command to move, a blonde girl shoves her aside, leaving the onlookers stunned. Then the real power awakens with a whisper of Hedera and the command Avis Kavea. A storm of foliage erupts, unleashing a devastating attack that tears through the arena. The sheer scale of the magic leaves the opposition speechless. While the glasses girl is left in total shock, her teammate realizes the game has changed. With power like this, losing is no longer an option. The crowd goes wild. Lady Alexandra is suddenly the center of attention, with students showering her in praise for her invincible defenses and noble pedigree. They can't believe someone this strong is still a free agent. But the praise is cut short by a shocking accusation. One girl bluntly calls Lady Alexandra a spy for Sir Rubius, only to immediately panic and apologize for her rudeness. Her logic? Someone this powerful must have a hidden motive if they don't already have a team. The interrogation deepens. When asked if she's a friend of Lady Lapis, Alexandra dismisses herself as a mere hanger-on and admits she's there on Rubius's orders. This leaves the other girl baffled. If she's really a spy sent to sabotage them, why is she helping them win? Just as the questions peak, Alexandra flips the script. With a mysterious gaze and a chillingly calm tone, she asks the one question that puts the power back in her hands. What exactly will they do once she gives them an answer? She lays down the law. Trust or not, the team needs her to compete. Her advice is simple. Stop worrying about pointless things and just focus on the game. With that, the tension breaks as the other team departs. The word spreads fast. The announcer declares Team Diana the dominant force of the first game, shocking the crowd. A team made mostly of commoners has suddenly emerged as the favorite for the entire championship. Midori is absolutely losing it. She's completely starstruck by a play so incredible it defies logic, scoring a goal without a single drop of flight magic. But not everyone is celebrating. While Midori is in awe, a companion warns that such a flashy debut just puts a giant target on the player's back. And then comes the real bombshell. The winner plans to claim Midori-san as their prize. The focus shifts to Lapis, who looks deeply troubled by the potential outcome. If Diana wins, what does that mean for her? Suddenly, she breaks the silence with a single word. Midori. Lapis plays it cool, ordering Midori to deliver fruit to Diana and her team. But the real mission? She wants to know if Diana has mentioned her. The answer is a resounding nothing, leaving Lapis momentarily stunned. She quickly recovers, dismissing the awkwardness and rushing Midori back to the arena before the next match begins. Back at the stadium, the air is thick with anticipation. As the crowd roars, a certain gaze suggests that the stakes of this tournament are far higher than anyone realizes. Ori heads to the locker rooms to offer her congratulations, but the party is a total bust. Instead of victory cheers, she walks into a room filled with pure, concentrated misery. The girls are stunned to see Lapis's secretary, and Midori is quickly pulled aside. Midori drops a massive truth bomb. Lady Alexandra was asked to be a spy for Rubius. Desperate for answers, Midori asks if Midori's foresight can reveal the plot. But Midori is totally blank on these background characters. Just as the mood dips, Midori flips the switch, excitedly asking if she's looked cool during the match. Midori is practically glowing from the praise, basking in Midori's genuine admiration. It's a heartwarming moment, but it leaves Midori wondering, did the prince find her just as impressive? Midori's heart is on her sleeve as she holds Diana close, declaring that as long as it makes her smile, she would do absolutely anything in the world. But beneath the warmth, a wave of guilt crashes over Midori. She knows she's the one who twisted the story, leaving Diana with no one to rely on but her. In a moment of raw vulnerability, Midori confesses how much Diana's support has meant to her, promising to cherish her forever. Yet Midori refuses to let Diana live in her shadow, insisting that Diana is the real star and urging her to use her wish for her own happiness. Just as Diana tries to confess her own feelings, the romantic tension is shattered by a sudden booming voice. Natalie crashes the party, leaving a flustered Midori in the dust. The dream is officially over as Natalie reminds her about the strategy meeting. Midori snaps back to reality with a literal slap to the face, scrambling to catch up. But as Midori turns the corner, she freezes. Natalie is already there, waiting for her with a look that says she knows everything. The horror sinks in. Natalie heard every single word of that emotional confession. She casually notes how attached Midori is to Lady Lapis's familiar, leaving Midori absolutely panicked. Then comes the brutal roast. Midori tears into Midori, accusing her of being a pervert, obsessed with collecting rare familiars and treating Diana like a prize in a bet. The final blow is a cold reality check. Midori claims neither of them actually sees the other as a partner. As she suggests giving up entirely, Midori is left staring into the void, wondering if there's any hope left. If I can't bring myself to give up, then what else can I do? Lapis is at her breaking point, her voice trembling with desperation. But Midori's response is a cold splash of water. She tells her she'd be far happier if she just let go. But Lapis isn't backing down, declaring she'll never give up on the happiness of the person she loves. Midori watches her, realizing that for a noble like Lapis, personal desire is a luxury that always loses to the duty of the house. Midori doesn't hold back, questioning if this crushing duty is why Lapis plays Magicross with such a bored expression. It's not passion. It's a forced transfer ordered by Rubius, leaving Lapis feeling trapped and speechless. The truth is brutal. Lapis only obeys because she doesn't care about the game. Midori's words cut deep. If giving up is what makes her happy, then she should just do it. The bluntness leaves Lapis completely stunned, but something inside Lapis snaps. A hidden fire ignites as she realizes that if she could actually win, even she might find a way out of this cycle. The tragedy is that she's trapped from both sides. Rubius didn't order her to win, and her own father explicitly forbade it. Midori looks at her and asks the one question that exposes the void. Are you truly happier like that? I don't know. That simple admission is devastating. Midori can't help but feel that being a noble is a nightmare if you're stripped of the right to even know your own feelings. The scene shifts to a golden memory of young Alexandra, affectionately known as Allie, dominating the field with natural talent. Her father's praise is everything to her, as he suggests she enter the elite athletics conference. The excitement is electric, but it's cut short by a chilling command that echoes through her childhood: you must not win. The sudden shift in mood leaves young Allie frozen in confusion. Her father's logic is a cage. They are the least important people, and to be liked, she must remain invisible. A heartbreaking deal is struck, teaching young Allie that her value lies in her willingness to lose. A heavy silence hangs in the grand corridor as Alexandra looks on, her expression clouded with a quiet, lingering melancholy. The mood flips instantly to the roar of a stadium as the semi-finals begin. But there's a surprise in the lineup. Diana has been moved to keeper, a change that Alexandra finds suspiciously convenient. The game explodes into action. Alexandra pushes herself to the limit, driven by the need to impress her father and the high-ranking nobles watching from above, until a sudden shout calls her name. Suddenly, the noise of the crowd fades into a haunting memory. A cold, commanding voice echoes from her past, delivering a crushing order. She must not win, and she must never be the one to shoot the ball. The pressure reaches a breaking point as the opposing team screams for a goal. Alexandra grips her stick with white-knuckled intensity, caught in a clash between her instincts and that forbidden command. Then, in a flash of pure reflex, she strikes. With a brilliant save, she shuts down the attack, leaving the field in awe of her skill. Whistle blows, marking the end of the quarter. While her teammates react to the play, Alexandra remains distant, lost in the turmoil of her own mind. The mask finally slips. Torn between her own feelings and the expectations forced upon her, she lets out a shaky breath, realizing that if she can't bring herself to give up, she has to find another way. Through the tears and the tension, a spark of clarity hits. A small, determined smile forms on her lips as she finally reaches a realization. It's time for a change of plans. Alexandra takes command, shifting the positions and sending Diana back to the front, all based on a simple, cryptic order from Rubius. Just transfer to Diana's team. Sudden change of plans. A girl is informed she's being transferred to a new team, all by the direct request of the formidable Lady Lapis. But the request is actually a cruel order. She's told to keep the wild dogs, the commoners, on a short leash to ensure they never reach the finals. The girl reveals she had already planned to throw the game just to comply. But wait. The spark of rebellion ignites. She realizes she can't just give up her dreams, and she places the blame for this mess squarely on the woman before her. With a mischievous glint in her eye, she demands accountability. And then the scene shifts to the roaring stadium where the real battle begins. Enter Diana, charging forward with everything she's got. But she's trapped on the ground, her path swiftly cut off by opponents she can't fly over. Is this where it all ends? Not so fast. A perfectly timed catch turns the tide, and a powerful pass sends the ball soaring back into the heat of the action. The pace turns electric. The opponents are left reeling, stunned by the sheer speed of the attack as Lady Alexandra blasts through the field. She's almost there, but the ball is just out of reach. Because the rules of Magicross forbid touching the ball with anything but the cross, her specialized magic makes her a terrible attacker, but she refuses to be sidelined. With a scream of defiance, she activates a hidden trump card, Hetera. In a stunning display of power, magic vines lash out to seize the ball. With a shout of Clavis, she rewrites the rules of the game in one explosive move. A sudden, explosive strike. Diana launches a powerful attack that tears through the arena, sending the game into a total frenzy. Oh! The crowd erupts as Diana realizes the impossible. Their teamwork is actually working, a complete 180 from their disastrous first match. Caught in the rush of victory, Diana is swept up in a moment of pure, unfiltered triumph. Victory is theirs. Team Diana secures a spot in the finals, setting the stage for an epic clash. Commoners versus nobles. From the heights of the stadium, Lapis watches the commoner team's fierce assault, her gaze lingering on the girl who just stole the show. While Ali plays the crowd with a playful wave, a certain noble struggles to hide his flustered reaction, desperately denying he wants her as a fan. Then comes the real strategy. A teammate tells Diana that the field is the only place she can truly monopolize Lapis's gaze, and if she wants to win, she needs to use this charisma boost. Diana's eyes ignite with determination. With her team's support, she's ready to make sure Lapis can't take her eyes off her, but the view from the top is far more calculating. As Lapis looks down, her aide confirms that everything is unfolding exactly as she envisioned. Victory is just a piece of a darker puzzle. By planting rumors of a rigged final, Lapis is preparing to ignite a fire of rebellion, waiting for the wild dogs to launch their coup. Alt. The stage is set for a total power play. The first prince and his future queen are ready to demonstrate their absolute authority by suppressing everyone in their path, and Midori is absolutely here for the show. The tension reaches a breaking point as the final match is announced. Lapis watches with a chilling, confident smile, eager to witness what she calls the beginning of the end right here and now. But while Lapis and Rubius remain composed, Ali is completely unraveling. She's frozen in a state of pure shock, her nerves shattering under the weight of the moment. Then, the whistle blows and chaos erupts. The game kicks off with a violent burst of speed, and as the players clash, a voice cuts through the noise, calling out to a distracted Lady Ali. It's a total war on the field. While the opposition aggressively claims the first possession, Ali fights through her panic, determined to steal the ball back and turn the tide. A single name echoes through the air. Ali. For a split second, a warm memory of friendship flashes through her mind, giving her the mental spark she needs to lock back into the game. But the opposition is ruthless. Cecily tears through the defense and fires a powerful shot, leaving Ali's team reeling after a disastrous first half where they couldn't even touch the ball. The heartbreaking truth comes out. Ali is facing her own former teammates, all of whom far outrank her. Overwhelmed by guilt and the fear of disappointing Lapis and Rubius, she offers to take full responsibility for the failure. That's when Midori steps in with a smile that changes everything. She tells Ali that playing together has been pure fun, and she's more than willing to take the heat from the nobles as long as they win as a team. The mood flips from drama to comedy in an instant. When Ali questions if Rubius is even that important, Midori's solution is terrifyingly simple. If anything goes wrong, she'll just have her dragons burn him to a crisp. While her teammates are caught up in playful teasing and blushing, Lapis remains cold and focused. For her, there is only one thing that matters right now: winning. She knows the enemy has studied her magic and every single one of her weaknesses, but she's already planning her next move. With a determined huddle and a shared vow, the team locks in their special strategy. Then, in a sudden burst of energy, they launch themselves into the arena, ready to turn the tide of the match. The second half kicks off with Cecily and Diana shifting from offense to a rock-solid defense. Lapis watches the opposing keeper, Ali, with a confident gaze. She claims to know her opponent better than anyone else, and she's not worried. Lapis begins a ruthless tactical breakdown, noting that Ali's Ivy magic only lasts 5 seconds. She moves in for the kill, using a calculated feint to force the keeper to waste her limited magic power. Then shoot, she commands, striking with precision. But just as Lapis thinks she's won, a second layer of Ivy erupts, shattering her plan. Shocked and knocked back, Lapis realizes she's been played. The first layer was a reproduction created by a commoner, a variable she never saw coming. Team Diana is relentless, putting on suffocating pressure as the clock winds down to the final 5 minutes. With the scores tied and the intensity peaking, Lapis can only stare in disbelief at the enemy's flawless teamwork. Time is running out, and Lapis knows she can't afford to hesitate. Pushing her limits, she screams Verkink, and unleashes a massive surge of magic to force her way through the opposition. A colossal wave of ivy crashes forward as Lapis shouts, "Alas, Hedera!" But the crowd gasps in surprise. The keeper isn't staying put. She's charging straight to the front to intercept the attack. A lightning-fast pass sends the ball flying, leaving Lapis gasping for air. She's completely drained of magic, and as she watches the attackers close in, a terrifying realization hits her. Panic sets in as Lapis realizes she's trapped. With no magical energy left to fly and her teammates occupied, the ball is drifting completely out of her reach. Her mind races in a desperate loop. She must think of something, or it's all over. Diana launches a desperate gamble, summoning Kalamna Hedera, as she pushes her magic to the absolute limit. She knows her energy is running dangerously low, but she's determined to create a foothold and reach that ball. Against all odds, she does it. Propelled by a surge of magic, Diana soars through the air and snatches the ball right out of the sky, leaving the crowd in absolute shock. With a thunderous cry, she lets the ball fly. The impact is explosive, sending a massive shockwave across the field as the final decisive shot is fired. The stadium erupts in a deafening roar as the announcement hits. Team Diana is the winner. Diana stands frozen, her eyes wide with disbelief that they actually pulled it off. Pure chaos and joy. The team piles on in a celebratory frenzy, their faces beaming with the thrill of an impossible victory. But amidst the cheering, a different mood looms. Lapis watches from the sidelines, her expression cold and determined as she tells herself it's finally time to end things. The announcer makes it official. The finals are over. In a stunning upset, Diana's team of commoners has just crushed the overwhelmingly powerful noble team. Her teammates aren't letting the moment slide, pushing a blushing Diana to go to her while the emotion is still raw. With a determined "I'm off," Diana vanishes in a flash of magic. Lapis greets her with a warm Diana-chan. But Diana is too hyped to stay quiet. She practically crashes into her, shouting her congratulations and praising the amazing match. The noise of the crowd fades away as Lapis reaches out and gives Diana's hand a firm, tender squeeze. A soft thanks escapes her lips, and for a moment, the world is just the two of them. The air is thick with tension as Lapis approaches Diana with a calm, almost haunting smile. A simple congratulations is all it takes to set the stage, but the real question follows. Does Diana remember the promise they made? Then comes the bombshell that leaves Diana completely breathless. Lapis offers the ultimate prize for her victory, Midori herself. Diana's mind reels in shock. Was Lapis lying to her this whole time? But why would she do something so drastic? But Diana isn't playing along. With a firm grip and a voice that brooks no argument, she shuts the offer down instantly. No matter the prize, this is one deal she refuses to make. Her reason is simple and heartbreakingly sincere. She doesn't want to be a master. She just wants Midori to keep her dazzling smile and be happy. Even as Lapis listens, she can't help but admit she'd love for that happiness to be found by her side. Surrounded by the comrades who give her strength, Diana's resolve only hardens. She doesn't need Midori as a trophy or a prize, because true happiness can't be owned. But she isn't finished with Lapis yet. In a sudden role reversal, the winner turns the tables on the Villainess. Diana looks Lapis in the eye and delivers a powerful plea. Don't give up on your own feelings, and never abandon the things you truly find important. As Diana departs, Lapis is left facing the prince. He reminds her of the rules. The winner's wish must be granted. But Lapis's mind is elsewhere, expressing a sudden, deep desire to be a source of strength for him. Then, Lapis drops a declaration that changes everything. Her wish is to become his wife and bring peace to the entire country. With that final heavy word, she turns and slams the door behind her. The prince can only watch her go with a knowing smile, but he isn't about to let the moment end. He urges Diana to go after Lapis, certain that she's the one Lapis is actually waiting for. Diana doesn't need to be told twice. She dashes off instantly. But as the dust settles, a new game begins. The prince's aide steps forward with a request of her own, leading to a cryptic exchange about limits and capabilities. The prince's final question lingers in the air. Will she lend him a hand? Grand residence looms under a starlit sky, but inside the atmosphere is heavy. Midori walks the lonely hallways, her deep sigh echoing through the silence. She had hoped to find Lapisama, but the Villainess had already returned. A wave of insecurity hits Midori. Why would someone like Lapis be waiting for her? She recalls the small victories, the tasks she was entrusted with, and the fragile hope that she could actually bring happiness into Lapis's life. Standing before a closed door, Midori is paralyzed by uncertainty. She searches for answers, but the mystery of what's truly going on in Lapis's mind remains an impenetrable wall. Suddenly, A sound breaks the silence. At first, Midori thinks it's talking, but then she realizes it's singing. Driven by a curiosity she can't ignore, she grips the handle and slowly pushes the door open. Inside, the room is a sanctuary of books and solitude, where Lapis sits by the window, lost in a private melody. It's a side of her that feels almost too intimate to witness. Midori freezes in the doorway, the weight of her position crashing down on her. She knows that by simply entering this room she is crossing a line and defying her employer's wishes. The fear is suffocating. One wrong move could shatter the trust they've painstakingly built, or worse, cause Lapis even more pain. But as she looks at the vulnerable woman before her, the fear is eclipsed by something stronger. Despite the risks, Midori can't bring herself to turn away. Lapis is startled, her voice trembling as she asks why Midori is there. Without a word, Midori gently wraps a shawl around her, noting that she's freezing. In that moment, Midori realizes she doesn't need to be a grand person to make Lapis smile. She just needs to be the one closest to her. As she tends to Lapis in the quiet of the night, Midori's resolve hardens into a singular burning desire. More than just a job, more than just a mission, she truly wants to serve her. Midori breaks the silence of the night, slipping into Lapis's room after being drawn in by the sound of her singing. Lapis acts dismissive, but the air between them is thick with unspoken tension. Mask slips as Midori admits the real reason for her visit. She's been consumed by worry ever since seeing Lapis in such a strange state. Suddenly, the confidence vanishes, replaced by a crushing insecurity. Midori begins to apologize, fearing she's become a burden and asking the one question she's terrified to hear the answer to. Does Lapis even need her anymore? The dam finally breaks. Midori demands the truth, pleading to know if she's simply an obstacle in Lapis's way and why she was lied to and pushed aside. In a moment of pure desperation, Midori grasps Lapis's hand, begging for a chance to redeem herself. She doesn't care about the cost, she just wants to serve by Lapis's side. Just as Midori is at her most vulnerable, the mood flips instantly. With a sudden, forceful thud, Lapis pins her to the bed, her voice cutting through the air. That's right, you're in my way! Lapis looms over her, warning Midori that she is far too pure for the darkness to come. She describes a brutal purge of the anti-nobility faction, a bloodbath that will tear families apart and leave nothing but ruins. Lapis's grip tightens, turning the moment into a heavy, suffocating pact. She makes it clear that serving her isn't just about loyalty. It means taking all those blood-stained sins upon herself. The atmosphere turns lethal as Lapis stares deep into Midori's eyes. She poses the ultimate terrifying question. Is Midori truly prepared to kill a person for her? Midori is left frozen, the weight of the question hanging in the air. But before she can even answer, Lapis shuts it down with a cold, certain finality. Not a chance. The air turns cold as Lapis tries to push Midori away, urging her to abandon a lying villain like her and seek refuge with Diana or His Highness. But Midori is frozen, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. Was all of this actually for her sake? Refusing to let go, Midori confronts her. She asks if Lapis purposely played the part of the hated villain and paused her own plans just to ensure Midori wouldn't be burdened by any crimes. It's a far cry from the story Midori remembers from the game. In the game, Lapis was a monster who viewed commoners as less than human and murdered with a chilling smile. But the woman standing before Midori right now is different. She is someone haunted by a guilty conscience. Midori reflects on the digital image of the Villainess on her phone, wondering if the game simply hid these inner struggles from the player. Or perhaps something deeper is happening here. She recalls Lapis's ruthless determination to crush her enemies, even if it meant sacrificing her own life. Midori's heart aches as she wonders if she is truly worth disrupting such a desperate plan, and if her presence has already changed the course of destiny. A daring thought begins to take root in Midori's mind. If she's actually that important to Lapis, then maybe she can do it. With a nervous stutter, she tries to find the words. Gathering all her courage, Midori delivers a line that changes everything. She asks if promising to stay by Lapis's side forever would be enough to rewrite the Villainess's tragic future. The confession leaves Lapis completely blindsided. Her composure shatters, her face flushing a deep red as she stares at Midori, the tension between them reaching a breaking point. Overwhelmed, Lapis slumps into Midori's arms, whispering that such a thing is impossible. But Midori holds her tight, promising that it's okay and suggesting they forge a new plan together, where no one has to carry the burden of sin alone. In a moment of pure, tender intimacy, Midori leans in close. She offers one final gentle reassurance. After all, Lapis hasn't actually stolen anyone's life yet. The tension spikes as Lapis leans in, tilting Midori's chin up with a dangerous smirk. Her voice is a tease, but the words cut deep. Does Midori really not know her at all? The mood flips instantly. Lapis's expression turns cold and final, delivering a crushing blow that leaves Midori frozen in shock. It's too late, and there is no saving her now. Click. The sound of the door closing echoes through the room, leaving a stunned Midori alone to wonder why things have taken such a sudden, dark turn. But then, a sudden flicker of tenderness. Lapis grabs Midori's hand and leans in to whisper something so intimate it leaves Midori shivering and completely flustered. Just as the moment peaks, Lapis lets go. A small object hits the pavement with a sharp clack, and Midori's eyes widen in absolute disbelief. The hammer drops. Lapis turns her back, coldly telling Midori to go back to where she came from or find a new master, because Midori simply doesn't matter to her anymore. Total devastation. Midori is left reeling in the wake of the dismissal, convinced that her attempt to intervene was the very thing that ruined everything. She collapses under the weight of the rejection, sobbing as she realizes she stepped way over the limits of her job, leaving her heartbroken and alone. Fast forward to a new grueling reality. Midori is now a lowly maid, scrubbing clothes with a frantic, desperate energy that leaves her coworkers completely baffled. Even her peers are worried, reminding her that she's free to find a better job. But Midori is determined to stay buried in work. If she keeps herself busy, maybe she can finally forget the pain of Lapis's words. Midori is spiraling into a deep void of self-doubt. Compared to the extraordinary people of this world, she feels like a complete nobody, wondering if an ordinary office worker could ever truly change Lady Lapis's tragic fate. Even a gentle word of comfort can't break the gloom. Looking out at the Grand Academy, Midori is convinced that all her efforts were in vain, and that the original story's disaster is inevitable. Meanwhile, Diana is experiencing the opposite extreme. She's the absolute star of the school, swarmed by adoring fans after a stunning match, until she pulls a sudden disappearing act that leaves everyone blinking in confusion. But fame brings unwanted attention. Diana is cornered by the anti-noble faction, who view her as their ultimate savior, and desperately beg her to join their secret meeting. Diana, however, isn't exactly thrilled by the offer. After a brief, affectionate moment with a friend, Diana crosses paths with Ali. A simple greeting is exchanged, but the tension of the day's events is already starting to build. To escape the suffocating crowd, Diana literally takes to the skies with flight magic. Ali can't help but tease her about being the center of attention for everyone, from the high nobility to the rebels. Ali explains the messy reality of the noble hierarchy, revealing that her own low rank makes her an easy target for the anti-noble faction. It's a political minefield where everyone is searching for a powerful ally to flip the scales. Their conversation is cut short by a sharp, commanding presence. A high-ranking official appears, noting the closeness between Diana and Ali with a knowing look. She claims she isn't there to punish anyone, but her target is clear: Diana. With a chillingly calm smile, the woman delivers a summons to the royal gardens during lunch. His Highness himself is calling. Diana's popularity has just reached the highest and most dangerous level. Diana is absolutely finished with this day. She storms into the gardens in a fit of rage, only to find the Prince Gran waiting for her. He's apologetic, but he has a secret that's far too sensitive to discuss anywhere else. A mysterious prize is handed over, and it's not just any object. It's a framed photograph. Inside, a young Lapis is seen embracing another girl in front of a quiet building, a glimpse into a past hidden from the world. Diana is completely floored, having never seen a photo before in her life. As she questions who the children are, the prince reveals the weight of the image. It's the one person in this world he wants to make happy most. Confused by the gesture, Diana asks why he would give away something so precious. Gran Senpai's answer is a calculated challenge. He knows that as long as this is linked to Midori's happiness, Diana will never give up on the quest. The mood shifts instantly as Gran Senpai's expression darkens. He admits the heartbreaking truth. Despite how much the photo means to him, he has come to the conclusion that he simply cannot save her. But he refuses to let hope die. He believes that while it's impossible for him, someone else, perhaps Midori, or even Diana herself, might be the key to unlocking her happiness. With a final plea, he asks Diana to accept the photo. Later, as Diana makes her way through the halls, she is suddenly intercepted by a concerned classmate who worries she's been punished. Diana shows the prize to her friend, identifying the girl in the picture as Lady Lapis. As they study the image together, the other girl's eyes widen in sudden recognition. A revelation is shocking. The building in the background is an orphanage. The girl explains that Lapis is rumored to have a commoner younger sister, and this photo might be the only lead to where she came from. Driven by a promise made to Midori-san, Diana's resolve hardens. She is determined to guide Lapis toward the future she deserves and grant the wish for her happiness. Diana's determination turns into an absolute vow. Whether it means defying the royal family, the nobility, or the anti-noble faction, she will use every resource at her disposal to ensure that happiness is achieved, even if she has to force it herself. A deal is struck with a handshake, but Diana isn't just playing nice. She's playing the long game as she walks away. She drops a piece of Shemmer's advice on how to handle a certain cold-hearted person, You have to drag them onto the stage. But when she tells her companion to bring Midori along, she realizes the secretary is nowhere to be found. Panic sets in as Diana starts hunting for Midori, questioning everyone in sight. The maids are just as confused, mentioning they wanted to invite her to lunch, but she'd already vanished. Then one maid drops a crucial lead. Midori was last seen heading for the rooftop. With a cheerful thanks, Diana doesn't just walk. She launches herself toward the roof with terrifying speed. She's moving so fast she practically defies gravity, leaving everyone in her wake completely stunned. Diana sprints across the rooftops like a woman on a mission, leaving the watching maids in a state of pure disbelief. One of them can only sigh, realizing that while being loyal is a pain, leaving things to Diana is probably the only way they'll actually get done. High above the school, Natalie is spiraling into a deep pit of despair. Huddled alone on the rooftop, she admits she ran away, feeling like she's on the verge of a total breakdown. In this moment of crushing loneliness, she feels like she has absolutely nowhere to belong. Just as Natalie hits rock bottom, a whirlwind of energy crashes into her. Diana launches a full-speed tackle hug, screaming Natalie's name and sending the poor maid into a state of absolute shock. The chaos settles into a heavy silence as Diana looks Natalie in the eyes. The playful energy is gone, replaced by a serious intensity. She has something important to say, and it's clear this conversation is about to change everything. Meanwhile, in the quiet elegance of the rose garden, Lapis receives a report from her aide. The news is precise. The anti-noble faction has already made contact with Diana. Lapis isn't surprised. In fact, she finds the speed of it almost impressive. When her aide suggests exposing the rebels' meeting grounds to crush them now, Lapis simply smiles. To her, these rebels are just budding seeds that would be a waste to destroy too early. She believes in nurturing the flower of rebellion, waiting for it to bloom fully before she plucks the petals. The conversation winds down. Lapis asks about the whereabouts of her secretary. The aide's response is cautious, but Lapis already knows the truth. With a dangerous glint in her eye, she muses that Midori has bloomed too brightly. She'll just be in the way of the plan. A cold voice sets a sinister tone as a mysterious woman plots in the shadows, dismissing someone as a mere nuisance. Well, poor thing, she sneers, her smile hiding a dangerous intent. A girl with a ponytail reaches out to a maid, asking for her help to investigate Lady Lapis's sister. But the response is a crushing blow, a simple, heartbroken cant, followed by a desperate, sobbing embrace. The truth comes out. The maid has been dismissed from her position. In a voice thick with regret, she confesses that she overstepped her bounds, trying too hard to make Lady Lapis happy. Tears stream down her face as she spirals into self-loathing, calling herself nothing more than a busybody. She's convinced that someone like her could never be what Lady Lapis truly treasures. The despair deepens as she wonders if her desire for Lapis's happiness was actually just her own selfishness. Lost and broken, she can only apologize through her sobs, not knowing how to move forward. Just as the maid collapses in fear, her friend delivers a brutal wake-up call. A chilling question cuts through the air. If this is what Lady Lapis wanted, would she really be fine with her dying? The weight of potential regret crashes down. Images of a blade, and a frozen expression of shock. Would she really be able to just give up and tell herself it was for the best, while Lapis faded away? No more excuses. The ponytail-haired girl grabs her shoulders, demanding she stop lying about her own feelings. She insists that the maid isn't confused. She's just terrified because she already knows the answer. The tension peaks as the friend holds her close, exposing the truth. Midori isn't lost. She's simply scared to confront the intensity of the feelings she harbors for the villainess. Even with the fear of being rejected again, the friend offers a hand of support. She urges Midori to stop hesitating and choose the path that allows her to love the person she is becoming. Lapis presents a heartbreaking choice. The version of Midori who watched from the sidelines as Lapis grew unhappy, or the one who accepted her selfishness and worked tirelessly for her happiness. With a piercing gaze, she asks the one question that demands an answer. Which one does Midori prefer? There is no hesitation. Midori reaches out, her hand trembling slightly as she firmly grasps Lapis's hand, choosing her path with absolute certainty. Lapis beams with a radiant smile, vowing that they will keep fighting together until the very end. Even as Midori wonders if the future can truly be changed, Lapis's confidence acts as the perfect anchor, promising that she is here for exactly that reason. Lapis describes her power not as a curse, but as a glistening sword that cuts through evil to protect those precious to her. Midori is completely overwhelmed, recalling the moment Lapis called this power wonderful, and the weight of those words hits her all over again. With a tender expression, Lapis promises to protect Midori so she can fulfill every one of her own wishes. Her voice is soft but firm, giving Midori the ultimate permission to be as selfish as she likes. Midori realizes that the original plot has long since vanished, replaced by a reality she no longer recognizes. She feels adrift, without a place to truly belong, yet she clings to the warmth of the hand she's holding. Just by holding Lapis's hand, a surge of courage floods through Midori, making her feel capable of confronting any fear. In her eyes, Lapis has transformed into a source of blinding, shining brilliance. Midori can't help but think that Lapis is the true protagonist of this story. Lapis catches the expression on her face and lets out a playful giggle, teasing her for finally showing a smile. But tears of gratitude well up as Midori realizes it's not a protagonist who is shining, but simply Lapis, her Diana-chan. Determined, Midori declares she'll leave everything to her, even if she has to fight through Lapis's wicked desires. Though Lapis quickly begs for a more peaceful solution, the scene shifts to a carriage winding through a serene landscape. As the girls look out the window, a large building comes into view, the orphanage from the photo. Midori is stunned by the sheer scale of the fortress before them, but Lady Ali reveals its true purpose. It's a branch of the royal guard that maintains an orphanage, ensuring children of fallen soldiers aren't preyed upon by slave traders. Ali laughs off her lack of marriage prospects, joking that her rampage during the tournament made her far too eccentric for any noble suitor. Midori, however, doesn't see that as a loss. She thinks it's a good thing. With total sincerity, Midori tells Lady Ali that she would be wasted on someone who only wanted an obedient puppet. The unexpected praise leaves Ali completely flustered and blushing. The carriage winds through a lush forest, finally arriving at a grand estate. As they step out, a booming "Welcome home" echoes through the air. Absolute chaos as a swarm of children tackle Ali in a flurry of hugs and excitement. But amidst the noise, Midori spots a familiar face and gasps, "Is that Diana?" Diana arrives with her younger brother, an aspiring pro player who's eager to meet them. While the siblings reunite, Diana's curiosity peaks as she asks exactly how long the guests plan to stay. Ali quickly delegates, asking Diana to keep the kids entertained with a game of Magicross. The children are practically vibrating with excitement, begging Diana to teach them her legendary air running technique. Diana doesn't hesitate, confidently taking charge of the energetic crowd to the kids' delight. Meanwhile, Ali is reminded that her father is waiting in his study for a visit. Stepping inside the manor, Ali expresses her gratitude for the hospitality, admitting she had been planning to invite Diana over regardless of the current trip. But the moment they have a second of peace, the mood shifts. Ali turns to Midori and launches a rapid-fire interrogation: age, birthday, marriage history, and even her previous background. Midori is completely blindsided by the sudden barrage of personal questions. Lapis catches a flicker of tension in Ali's eyes. She asks the one question that cuts through the facade: "Is everything all right?" Ali tries to play it cool, calling Lapis's attentiveness annoying. But the mention of her father has clearly shaken her. The mask slips. Ali admits she doesn't regret her success, but she's haunted by a deeper fear. What does her father think of the girl who stopped being good? Lapis doesn't judge. She simply offers the kind of understanding Ali has been starving for. Then comes the confession. Ali reveals a hidden scar from her past, running away from her noble family's strict expectations. For years she lived a lie, terrified that winning or standing out would shatter her father's command to remain invisible. The fear was so paralyzing that after her rebellious victory in the tournament, she has been avoiding her family, cutting ties completely. Now, she realizes the crushing weight of that choice. She spent her whole life feeling like she has no place to belong because she chose to run from her own desires. Listening to Ali, Midori feels a deep pang of empathy. She remembers her own past life as a disposable corporate worker, realizing that whether in a modern office or a noble estate, the crushing weight of trying to fit an impossible mold hurts exactly the same. But Lapis isn't letting her sink. With a firm grip on her hand, she delivers a wake-up call. Running only ensures you'll be scared for the rest of your life. She challenges Ali to remember why she came here in the first place. The spark returns. Ali decides she's done giving up. She's still terrified of what Lapis thinks, but thanks to Diana's influence, she's finally found the courage to stop hiding and face the music. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Lapis admits she's in the same boat. She too has found a new kind of strength through Diana, creating an unexpected bond of shared courage between the two. "We're the same," Lapis claims, trying to lift Ali's spirits. Ali isn't so sure a lifetime of running can be fixed in a heartbeat, but the emotional weight is suddenly shattered by a blunt reality: they're completely out of magic. And that's when Diana swoops in with the worst possible timing, suggesting muscle training to make up for the lack of magic. While Ali internally facepalms, she drops a bombshell. She's actually going to go see her father. Lapis is caught off guard, immediately offering to escort her to his door. But Ali just gives a soft, knowing smile. For the first time in her life, she doesn't need a shield. She'll be just fine on her own. Fragmented memories flood back. A distant, imposing figure, the warmth of a smiling woman, and the innocent laughter of children. But then, the image shifts to something more restrictive. Young girls peering through bars, their eyes filled with a strange longing curiosity. Flashes continue. From a tender moment of affection to the shared smiles of those behind the bars. It all leads to a grand glittering banquet, a glimpse into a life of luxury that feels like a distant dream. Cut to the present, where Diana is offered a guest room, but she stubbornly refuses. Now tucked in bed, she's an absolute wreck of nerves, her mind racing as she realizes she's finally alone with the person she's been longing for. Just as the tension peaks, Lady Ali drops a bombshell. She finally understands why Diana is so fond of Midori. She describes the plain girl as unreliable yet somehow trustworthy, leaving Diana completely jolted and speechless. Ali descends into a blushing, dreamy haze, her words turning into incoherent mumbles as she tries to explain her feelings. As the night deepens over the silent mansion, a voice calls out, "Has Lady Ali already fallen asleep?" In the quiet of her room, a girl stands with a look of absolute determination clutching her heart. A memory of Lady Lapis flashes by, but the hesitation is gone. This time, she's not running away.